Welcome to Monk's Temple. You are here. You are already here. Before you think about where you've been, or plan where you're going, pause. There is a temple in this moment. It has no roof but the sky of your attention. No walls but the boundaries of your skin. No altar but the steady rhythm of your heart. Welcome. Look at your hands. These hands. They have dialed phones, turned keys, wiped sleep from your eyes. They've traced the lines on a loved one's palm. They've carried groceries, held books, braced against disappointment, and opened in surprise. They are maps of a life lived. But in this moment, how much of you is actually here, in these hands? Where is your awareness? Is it in the fingertips, or is it miles away, lost in yesterday's conversation or tomorrow's to-do list? We live most of our lives in the small, well-lit control room of the head. We stare at screens of memory and projection. We push buttons labeled worry, rehearse, compare, regret. We speak into the microphone of our inner voice, narrating a story about a life we are not actually living. Meanwhile, the vast, beautiful, feeling vessel of the body, this breathing, sensing, alive ship, sails through the present moment entirely on autopilot. Unattended. Unfelt. That is why you can be standing in a room sparkling with Christmas lights, surrounded by the voices of people who have known you since you were small, holding a cup of something warm, and yet feel a quiet, echoing distance. A loneliness that has nothing to do with other people. You are there, but you are not inhabiting there. Your body is present, but you, the conscious, felt awareness, are absent without leave. You are lost in thought. And thought, no matter how vivid, is not life. It is the menu, not the meal. For the next 3 hours, we are not adding a single thing to your life. We are not giving you a new system, a new goal, a new thing you should be doing. We are going to help you subtract. We are going to gently, patiently, peel away the layers of mental noise, of time travel, of commentary and judgment, until we arrive at what has always been here, waiting beneath the chatter. The alive, silent, undeniable fact of being. We are going to practice coming home. Not to a memory. Not to an expectation. But to the home that is breathed in and out with every breath. The home that is felt in the pressure of your feet against the floor. The home that is this very moment, in all its imperfect, real, and sacred simplicity. So, wherever you are, let the weight of your shoulders be felt. Let the tightness in your jaw be softened by awareness. Take one breath. And know, deeply, that you are the one taking it. This is the first step. The only step, really. The step of stopping. Let's begin. And so we arrive at part 1, the lost art of arrival. Chapter 1, the cartographer of nowhere. There was once a man hired to map a distant, fog-shrouded island. He arrived with his tools, sextant, compass, ledger. But the island had no clear landmarks. The coastline shifted with the tides. The forest seemed to move in the mist. Paths appeared and vanished overnight. Frustrated, he tried to impose order. He drew lines where there were none. He named hills after his anxieties. He charted forests according to his wishes. His map became a beautiful, intricate fiction. It told him nothing about the island, but everything about his own restless, ordering mind. One morning, his ink ran out. His paper was gone. He sat on a driftwood log, utterly defeated. With nothing left to do, he simply sat. He felt the cool, damp sand under his feet. He heard the hiss of surf, not as an obstacle to his work, but as a sound. He smelled the salt and rot of seaweed. He watched the fog without trying to see through it. And in that idle, empty attention, a knowing arose, not a knowledge about the island, but a knowing of it. He felt its mood in the air on his skin. He understood its shape through the sound of the waves against hidden rocks. He didn't have a map anymore. He had a relationship. He had arrived. We are all cartographers of nowhere. Our minds are desperate to map the ever-shifting territory of now. We label this moment boring, that one stressful. We chart our progress toward happiness, our distance from pain. We draw borders between me and everything else. We create elaborate, exhausting maps of a life we are too busy mapping to actually live. The practice of mindfulness is laying down the pen. It is stepping out of the cartographer's tent and sitting on the driftwood log of your own senses. It is feeling the territory directly, without the filter of the map. For the next minute, let your internal cartographer rest. Don't name what you feel. Don't judge where you are. Just feel the territory. The temperature. The texture of whatever you're touching. The soundscape of here and now. The map is not the territory. You have just visited the territory. Welcome home. Chapter 2, The Gardener Who Forgot the Rose. There was once a gardener who dedicated his life to cultivating the most magnificent roses in the valley. He knew everything about them: soil pH, pruning techniques, pest control, hybrid varieties. He wrote books, gave lectures, and his garden was a destination for admirers. One spring morning, a little girl visited with her grandfather. The gardener was in the middle of explaining the intricacies of cross-pollination when the girl wandered off. He found her kneeling motionless before a single, open rose, a simple red one, still wet with dew. He hurried over. "That's just a standard Rosa gallica," he said. "Nothing special. Come, let me show you the prize-winning hybrids." The girl didn't move. She looked up, her eyes wide. "But it's breathing," she whispered. The gardener froze. He looked at the rose. Not at its category, not at its health, not at its potential. He just looked. And for the first time in 40 years, he saw it. The delicate unfurling of each petal, the way the light glowed from within its crimson, the diamond-bright dew clinging to its edges. He saw the rose not as a subject of his expertise, but as a living phenomenon. A miracle happening silently in the morning sun. In that moment, the gardener's vast knowledge fell away. He wasn't a gardener anymore. He was a witness to beauty. And he began to weep. We are all that gardener. We have turned our own lives into projects to be managed, improved, and understood. We have diagnoses for our moods, strategies for our relationships, step-by-step plans for our happiness. We are experts on the idea of our existence, but we have forgotten how to simply be with the living fact of it. We look at a sunset and think, great photo op. We taste a meal and think, too many carbs. We receive a compliment and think, do they really mean it? We are so busy analyzing, categorizing, and optimizing our experience that we miss the experience itself. We miss the rose breathing. The practice of mindfulness is not about becoming a better gardener of your life. It is about becoming the child again. It is the willingness to kneel down, be still, and let the living moment, in all its ordinary, breathtaking simplicity, reveal itself to you. Right now, pause. Let go of what you know about this moment. Whether it's good, bad, productive, or wasteful. Just feel it. The air on your skin. The sound in the room. The weight of your body. This is the rose. And it is breathing. Chapter 3, The Astronaut's Salt Air. There's a story, perhaps true, about one of the first humans to walk on the moon. The journey was a roar of engineering, a ballet of physics, a pageant of national pride. He floated in the silent sea of space, saw the Earth as a lonely, beautiful gem against the infinite dark, an experience that forever changes a person. But years later, in a quiet interview, he was asked about the most profound moment. It wasn't liftoff. It wasn't the first step. It wasn't the view. It was the smell. After splashdown, bobbing in the Pacific, the hatch was cracked open. And it washed over him, the wet, living, pungent smell of salt air. Ocean air. Earth air. After days of sterile, recycled capsule air and the total void of space, this smell, so common, so utterly ordinary, it unstitched him. It was followed by the feel of a warm, humid breeze on his face, and the distant, raucous cry of a seagull. In that moment, he didn't just return to Earth. He returned to his body. He returned from the abstract, conceptual world of mission parameters and celestial mechanics to the tangible, sensate, messy, and overwhelmingly alive world of feeling. He wept. It was the smell of home he never knew he had left. Your mind is that capsule. It has journeyed into the abstract stratosphere of thought. It lives in the recycled air of your stories, the same anxieties, the same plans, the same old dialogues looping endlessly. From its small window, you look out at your life, your family around the tree, your own hands wrapping a gift, and you see it as a distant, beautiful blue marble. A thing to be observed, managed, commented on, maybe even loved from a distance. But not a thing you are inside of. Not a reality you are feeling with the whole of your being. Mindfulness is the opening of the hatch. It is the deliberate, gentle act of re-entering the atmosphere of your own senses. It is smelling the salt air of this moment. It is feeling the breeze of actual sensation on the skin of your awareness. It is hearing the seagull cry of a sound happening right now, right here. Can you feel it? The weight of your body in the chair. Not the idea of it, but the actual pressure, the contact points. Can you notice the temperature of the air on your face? Is it cool? Still? Can you hear the background symphony that has been playing this whole time, the hum of a heater, the rustle of fabric, the faint pulse of your own world? For the next 30 seconds, don't go anywhere. Don't seek anything. Just open the hatch. Welcome back to Earth. This simple act, feeling your body, noticing your senses, is the foundation of everything. It is how you end the exile. That hollow feeling you sometimes carry. It isn't emptiness. It's the space where your awareness could be living, if it weren't lost in space. When you return, the hollow fills, not with more thoughts or things, but with the profound substance of presence. Chapter 4. The Weaver of Invisible Threads, New Story. In a village famous for its tapestries, there lived an old weaver named Alara who could see threads invisible to others. While other weavers worked with vibrant silks and wools, Alara would sit at her loom for hours, her hands moving through empty air, weaving what appeared to be nothing at all. The villagers thought her touched by age. Poor Alara, they'd whisper. She weaves ghosts. Children would dare each other to run past her window, laughing at the woman weaving emptiness. One winter, a great cold settled over the village. The river froze. The hearth fires seemed to burn without warmth. A deep chill entered people's bones that no blanket could touch. They huddled together, but still felt separate, isolated in their suffering. Alara, noticing this, invited the entire village to her small cottage. They crowded in, curious despite themselves. In the center of the room stood her loom, and on it, something shimmered. Not with color, but with a pearlescent, moonlit quality. It was a tapestry of connection. "Come," she said softly. "Feel." The first to approach was the blacksmith, a man who had lost his wife that autumn. He reached out and touched the empty air above the loom, and gasped. He felt warmth. Not physical warmth, but the memory of his wife's hand in his. He felt the thread of their 40 years together, still vibrating. The baker's daughter touched it next. She felt the thread connecting her to her grandmother in another town, a thread of shared laughter over burned cookies. The shy woodcarver felt his connection to the forest he loved, the trees he'd never cut but only admired. One by one, the villagers touched Alara's invisible weaving, and each discovered the threads that connected them, not just to each other, but to memories, to places, to moments they thought were lost. The chill in the room began to thaw. Not from fire, but from something warmer, remembered connection. Finally, a child asked, "But grandmother, what are the threads made of?" Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting the shimmer of her work. "Attention," she said. "Love. Shared moments. Gratitude. Grief honored. They're always here, connecting everything. Most people just don't look for them. They're too busy looking at the solid things. We are all surrounded by invisible threads. The thread connecting you to the friend you haven't spoken to in years, still humming with old affection. The thread to the place you grew up, vibrating with childhood memories. The thread to the stranger who smiled at you yesterday, a brief but real connection. The thread to the earth itself, through the food you eat, the air you breathe. During the holidays, we often feel the absence of threads, the loved ones no longer at the table, the connection strained by time or words. We see the empty chairs more vividly than the connections that remain. But Alara's wisdom reminds us, the threads don't disappear when people leave or change. They transform. They become threads of memory, of legacy, of love that transcends physical presence. Right now, in this moment, bring to mind someone you love. Don't just think about them. Feel for the thread. It might feel like warmth in your chest. A softening around your heart. A memory surfacing. That is you touching the invisible weaving. The practice is to become aware of these threads. Not to grasp them tightly, but to acknowledge their existence. To know you are never truly alone, but always part of this vast, shimmering tapestry of interbeing. When you sit at the holiday table later, try this: between conversations, pause. Feel for the threads connecting you to each person there. Even the difficult ones. Especially the difficult ones. You don't have to like the pattern, but you can acknowledge the connection. In that acknowledgement, something shifts. The meal becomes more than food. It becomes communion. Chapter 5: The Clockmaker and the River. In a city ruled by schedules, there lived a master clockmaker. His shop was a cathedral of time. Hundreds of clocks covered every wall, grandfather clocks with ponderous pendulums, delicate porcelain cuckoo clocks, sleek modern chronometers with silent, sweeping hands. They ticked and talked and chimed in a glorious, chaotic symphony. People believed that owning one of his clocks would impose order on their chaotic lives, so they paid great sums. The clockmaker himself was a monument to precision. He ate at 12:17 p.m. precisely. His afternoon walk was exactly 500 steps. He measured his life in ticks, his happiness in accurate talks. One afternoon, a young woman came into his shop. She didn't browse the clocks. Instead, she stood at his grimy back window, looking into the small, weed-choked garden where a narrow stream trickled through. "That's a beautiful sound," she said. The clockmaker, irritated at the distraction, didn't look up from his work. "That's just the stream. It's irregular. Unreliable. It has no measure. It has a rhythm," she replied softly. "Just listen." Something in her tone made him pause. He set down his tweezers. And for the first time in decades, he truly heard it. Not just the generic sound of water, but the specific, ever-changing music of this stream at this moment. The glug-glug gurgle over a mossy stone here. The whispered shush over a bed of gravel there. The soft crash-plash as it spilled into a tiny pool. It was never the same. It was a rhythm, but not a meter. It was alive. Against his every instinct, he began to spend time by that stream. He forgot to count his steps. His 12:17 lunch grew cold. He just sat and listened to the water's story, which was always new. A strange thing happened. The clocks in his shop didn't fall into disarray. In fact, they seemed to run with a quieter, more graceful accuracy. And the clockmaker himself felt a peace he had never found in all his ticks and tocks. He had, without realizing it, traded the measurement of time for the experience of flow. We are all clockmakers in our minds. Our thoughts are the clocks. We have the anxiety clock, ticking loudly as it counts down to a deadline. The regret clock, chiming mournfully on the hour for past mistakes. The planning clock, its hands forever spinning toward a future that never arrives. The comparison clock, measuring our worth against the perceived time of others. Together, they create a deafening internal noise we often mistake for being productive, for being on top of things. We believe if we could just synchronize all these clocks. Get the career clock, the relationship clock, and the happiness clock to all strike noon in perfect harmony, then we'd have peace. So we spend our lives hunched over the internal mechanisms, winding springs, oiling gears, trying to fix the broken timepieces of our circumstances. And we are exhausted. The practice points us to the stream, not the clocks. The stream is your direct, embodied experience in the present moment. It is the flow of sensations in the body. The flow of the breath. The flow of sound and sight and feeling. It has a rhythm, but it is not mechanical. It is organic, changing, alive. The practice is to step away from the clock shop of your mind and sit on the bank of the stream of your senses. You don't have to silence the clocks. They'll keep ticking in the other room. But your primary residence, your home, can shift from the noisy shop to the quiet, mossy bank. When you feel overwhelmed by the ticking, by holiday deadlines, social obligations, the pressure to create perfect memories, don't try to fix the clocks. That only adds more noise. Instead, find your stream. It is always accessible through your body. Feel your breath, this is the most constant stream you have. Don't change it. Don't deepen it. Just feel its natural current in and out. Follow one cycle, then another. Listen to ambient sound, hear it not as an interruption, but as the music of the stream of now. Let it wash over you. Feel a single sensation, the weight of a mug in your hand. The texture of the fabric on your skin. The feeling of your feet inside your socks. In that simple attention, you exit clock time and enter stream time. You move from managing life to inhabiting it. The problems don't magically vanish, but your relationship to them changes. You are no longer a frantic clockmaker. You are a person sitting by water, and from that place of calm, you can see what actually needs to be done with clarity, not panic. Chapter 6, The Lighthouse with Rotating Light, New Story. On a treacherous stretch of coast known as the Widow's Curve stood a lighthouse with a peculiar feature. Its light didn't shine steadily in one direction. Instead, it rotated slowly, illuminating different sectors of the sea for precisely 7 seconds each before moving on. Mariners complained bitterly. "How are we to navigate," they grumbled, "with a light that shows us the rocks only intermittently? We need constant illumination of the danger." The lighthouse keeper, an old woman who had weathered 50 winters in the tower, would simply nod and continue her work. She'd polish the great lens, wind the clockwork mechanism, and watch the light sweep its slow, patient arc across the dark waters. One fierce December night, a merchant ship found itself caught in a sudden squall exactly at Widow's Curve. The captain, panicking, searched desperately for the lighthouse's beam to orient himself. But there it was, shining brilliantly for 7 seconds, then gone for 21 as it illuminated other sectors. "Useless," the captain cried, as waves crashed over the deck. "I need to see the rocks constantly to avoid them." But something happened in those 7-second windows of illumination. Because the light wasn't constant, the captain paid ferocious attention when it was there. He noticed details he would have missed in a steady beam, the exact shape of the largest rock, the pattern of the breakers around it, the deeper channel just to its north. In the darkness between, he held the image in his mind, his senses heightened, his awareness razor-sharp. He realized he wasn't just looking at the rocks during the light sweep, he was learning the relationship between his ship and the danger. The rhythm of light and dark became a kind of dialogue with the coastline. By the time the ship cleared the curve, he hadn't just avoided disaster, he felt he knew that stretch of coast intimately, as if he'd mapped it with his own senses. After docking safely, the captain visited the lighthouse keeper. "I understand now," he said. "The rotation isn't a flaw. It's how the light teaches us to see." The old keeper smiled. "The sea is too vast to illuminate all at once," she said. "And if I shone the light only on the rocks, you'd miss the safe channels, the changing currents, the stars above. The rotation teaches attention. It says, be fully here for these 7 seconds. Then be fully here for what comes next. That is how you navigate anything worth navigating. Our attention is that rotating light. We believe we need constant, unwavering focus on our problems, our anxieties, our to-do lists. We think if we just stare at the rocks of our difficulties long enough, we'll solve them. But this constant focus often just magnifies our fear, exhausts us, and blinds us to everything else. The practice of mindfulness is learning the rhythm of the rotating light. It is giving your full, complete attention to one sector of your experience for a few breaths, then allowing the light to move. To the sensation in your hands. To the sound in the room. To the feeling of your breath. To the thought passing through. Each gets its 7 seconds of complete illumination. None gets held indefinitely. During the holidays, we often fix our light on one thing, the difficult relative, the imperfect meal, the childhood memory that makes us sad. We shine our mental spotlight there and leave it, burning ourselves out with the intensity of our focus. Try the lighthouse practice instead. When you notice your attention stuck on a problem or a painful memory, acknowledge, my light is fixed here. Then, gently, deliberately, rotate it. Give 7 seconds of full attention to your feet on the floor. 7 seconds to the taste of your drink. 7 seconds to the color of the lights on the tree. 7 seconds to the sound of laughter from another room. You're not avoiding the difficulty. You're putting it in the larger context of your experience. You're remembering there are other sectors of this moment besides the rocky one. And in that rotation, you often find the safe channels, the ways through. The light that rotates sees more than the light that stands still. The attention that moves with intention navigates better than the attention that's stuck in fear. Chapter 7: The Librarian of Whispers. In the oldest part of a great city stood a library so vast its ends were lost in shadow. Its keeper was a man who knew every volume, every aisle, every whispered secret of the place. He could recite sonnets from the 14th century, trace the lineage of philosophical thought, and locate any obscure reference in the dark. His identity was the library. But he was deeply troubled. The library was never silent. It was filled with a perpetual, low whisper, the sound of 1,000 pages turning, the rustle of a coat, the soft sigh of a reader lost in thought, the distant scratch of a pen. To him, it was chaos. A maddening static that obscured the pure knowledge he loved. He tried to silence it, enforcing stricter rules, patting the floors, but the whispers remained. He tried to organize the sound, to categorize it, but it was too fluid. He considered leaving, but the library was his life. One winter evening, in a state of utter despair, he simply gave up. He walked to the very center of the great hall, sat on the cold marble floor, closed his eyes, and stopped fighting. He just listened. At first, it was just noise. Then, slowly, a change occurred. He began to hear into the whispers. The rustle of a page became the sound of curiosity. A soft sigh became the echo of an understood truth. The scratch of a pen became the pulse of a new idea being born. The whispers weren't in the library, they were the library. They were the living breath of the collective human search for meaning, passing from one soul to another across centuries. The very thing he had dedicated his life to was made of the very sound he had resisted. He opened his eyes, tears streaming down his face. He spent the rest of his days in peaceful reverence, not just tending the books, but listening to the whispers, understanding now that his own heartbeat, his own breath, was part of that eternal, beautiful symphony. Your mind is that library. The whispers are your thoughts, constant, overlapping, sometimes chaotic. The commentary, the planning, the remembering, the worrying. We treat these whispers as invaders, as interruptions to the silence and peace we crave. We try to silence them with force, organize them with logic, or escape them with distraction. But what if the whispers aren't separate from the peace? What if the thoughts aren't the problem, but the very texture of a conscious mind? The sound of a living intelligence processing the world, feeling, dreaming, searching. The practice isn't to empty the library. It's to change your relationship to the whispers. Sit. Close your eyes if you wish. Let the thoughts come. Don't grab onto them and start reading their contents. Don't push them away. Just listen to them as whispers. Hear them as sound, as mental events passing through the vast space of your awareness. You are not the whispers. You are the spacious, silent hall in which the whispers arise, play for a moment, and fade away. In that shift, the noise becomes a symphony. The problem becomes the art. The mind you've been fighting becomes the very library you get to inhabit, wonderstruck. Chapter 8, The Baker of Sourdough Time, New Story. In a village where everyone lived by strict schedules, there was a baker named Tomas who worked by a different clock. While others rushed to meetings timed to the minute, Tomas would begin his sourdough each morning not by checking his watch, but by pressing his ear to the crock where his starter lived. His bakery had no opening hours posted. The sign simply read, "Ready when it's ready." Villagers would grumble, peering through the window at the empty shelves at what they considered proper baking time. "Tomas is unreliable," they'd say. "He doesn't understand modern efficiency." But those who waited, who came back later, drawn by the scent that eventually filled the street, discovered something extraordinary. Tomas's bread was unlike any other. It had a depth of flavor, a complexity, a moist, chewy crumb and crackling crust that spoke not just of ingredients, but of something else entirely: patience. One day, the town's most efficiency-minded councilwoman decided to confront him. She arrived precisely at 8 a.m., appointment book in hand. "Tomas," she declared, "your lack of schedule is bad for business. The village needs reliability. Tell me your process, and I'll help you streamline it." Tomas, flour dusting his beard like early snow, simply smiled. "Come," he said. He led her not to his ovens, but to the corner where his starters lived. "Listen," he whispered. Puzzled, she leaned close to the ceramic crocks. She expected silence. Instead, she heard the faintest, softest pop, fizz, pop. The sound of fermentation. The sound of life doing its slow, invisible work. "This," Tomas said softly, "is my clock. The yeast wakes when it wakes. The dough rises at its own pace. The gluten develops not when I command it, but when it's ready. I don't make the bread. I provide the conditions, and then I attend. I listen. I feel when the dough has just the right spring. I smell when the crust is exactly caramelized. My schedule is written in bubbles and scent and texture." The councilwoman, about to protest, paused. She watched Tomas's hands as he gently folded a dough. There was no rush. No anxiety. Just a profound attentiveness. He wasn't battling time, he was collaborating with it. That evening, she tasted his bread for the first time. As she bit into the crust, something shifted. The frantic tick-tock of her mental clock seemed to soften. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about her next appointment. She was just tasting. Present with the complexity of flavors unfolding in her mouth. She realized Tomas hadn't just baked bread, he had baked time itself, time allowed to unfold naturally, time respected rather than controlled. We are all bakers of our own experience, but we try to work with factory yeast instead of sourdough time. Factory yeast works fast, predictably. It fits our schedules. Sourdough time is wild, unpredictable, alive. It has its own rhythms. It requires attendance rather than control. Our minds want factory yeast results, instant peace, immediate insight, quick fixes to complex emotions. We get frustrated when our inner world doesn't rise on schedule, when healing takes longer than we planned, when joy doesn't appear on command. But some things, the deepest transformations, the most nourishing insights, the most authentic connections, work on sourdough time. They require the slow fermentation of attention. They need periods of rest, of seeming inactivity. They ask us to listen for bubbles rather than watch clocks. This holiday season, you might feel pressure to produce certain feelings: joy on demand, gratitude on schedule, peace by Christmas Eve. When those feelings don't appear according to plan, you might judge yourself as failing. What if you practiced being a baker of sourdough time instead? What if your job isn't to manufacture festive feelings, but to provide the conditions for whatever wants to arise? The conditions are simple: presence, attention, kindness, space. Then, you attend. You listen for the inner bubbles. You feel for the texture of your own experience as it is, not as you think it should be. You notice when something is truly baked and ready, a moment of genuine connection, a flash of real peace, a wave of authentic gratitude, and you receive it as the gift it is, knowing it came in its own time. The practice: for the next 5 minutes, don't try to feel anything in particular. Don't try to relax or be peaceful. Just be the baker attending the dough. Feel your breath, the bubbles of your aliveness. Notice sensations, the texture of your experience. Smell the air, the scent of this moment. Attend without agenda. This is how we make peace with time itself. Chapter 9: The Painter of the Missing Chair. In a small village clinging to a cliff above the sea, there lived an elderly painter. He was famous for his seascapes. They didn't just depict the ocean. People swore they could feel the spray on their faces, hear the crash of waves, sense the deep, ancient patience of the water. A wealthy collector, determined to own the painter's ultimate masterpiece, commissioned him to paint the view from his own cottage window, a staggering vista of sky and sea that the painter had woken to for 50 years. Months passed. The collector grew impatient. Finally, he traveled to the remote cottage. He found the painter not on the cliff with an easel, but in his humble, sunlit kitchen. And on the simple wooden easel was not a grand panorama, but a painting of the painter's own kitchen chair. It was rendered with excruciating, loving detail. The collector could see every knot and whorl in the old pine, the places where the arms were worn smooth and shiny from decades of use, the way the morning sun painted a stripe of gold across the slatted back, how the shadow pooled beneath the seat. It was just a chair. But it was painted with such profound attention that it seemed to hum with a quiet, sacred presence. The collector was furious. "I paid for the ocean. For the majesty. This is a piece of furniture. The painter set down his brush and turned calmly. "For 50 years, he said, his voice soft as the sea breeze, I have sat in this chair to drink my morning tea. I have looked out that window at the ocean you love. But I was always looking through the chair. Past it. My gaze was leaping over it to get to the view. I never truly saw the chair. I never honored its patient, silent support of my body, my life, my gazing. This week, I finally turned my gaze. I painted what was holding me up all along. And a strange thing happened. I discovered the ocean is in the chair, and the chair is in the ocean. They are not separate. To paint one thing with true, devoted seeing is to paint it all. We spend our lives painting the distant view. The view of future happiness, of the perfect Christmas gathering, of the resolved conflict, of the achieved goal. We look through our present moment, through this body, this breath, this ordinary Tuesday or this hectic Christmas Eve, to get to the masterpiece we imagine is waiting on the horizon. In doing so, we miss the sacredness of the chair that is holding us up right now. Your body is that chair. It has held you through every joy and sorrow. It breathes for you while you dream. It digests your food, fights your infections, heals its own wounds. It carries you from room to room, year to year. And yet, how often do you truly see it? Feel it? Appreciate it? Most of the time, you are looking through it, using it as a vehicle to get to the next thing, while it silently, faithfully supports your entire existence. This present moment is that chair. It is the ground of your being. The only time you are ever actually alive. Yet you are always leaning forward, straining to see past it into next week, or leaning back, examining the brushstrokes of last year. You miss the texture, the grain, the particular, holy light of now. The practice is to become the painter of the chair. For the next 5 minutes, I invite you to put everything else down. This is not a meditation to get better at meditating. It is an act of seeing. Of devotion. 1. Feel your feet on the floor. If you're standing, feel the full contact. If you're sitting, feel the weight in your thighs, your sit bones. This is the chair leg connection to the earth. The foundation. 2. Feel your spine. Notice its gentle, intelligent curve holding you upright. You don't have to tense it or correct it. Just feel the miracle of its structure. The column that allows you to turn and look at the world. 3. Feel your hands. The palms resting on your legs or touching each other. The fingers. The aliveness in them. Can you feel a faint pulse? A tingling warmth? The simple fact of sensation. 4. Now, feel your breath. Not as an abstract concept, but as a physical, felt event. The cool air entering the nostrils. The slight expansion of the ribs or belly. The pause. The warm air leaving. You are not painting the ocean of your thoughts, your plans, your memories. You are painting the chair of your present, embodied existence. In this simple, profound attention, you may discover what the painter discovered. That the piece, the majesty, the beauty you seek in the distant view, has been holding you up all along. Right here. In the ordinary, sacred chair of this moment. When you go to your holiday gathering, you can practice this. Don't just look through your cousin to think about what you'll say next. See him. Really see the light in his eyes, the unique curve of his smile, the sound of his laugh. Paint him with your attention. In that act, you will find a connection deeper than any surface conversation. You will have come home to the present, and in doing so, you will have come home to him. And so we arrive at part 2, dissolving the statue of self. Chapter 10, The Museum of Me. Imagine, if you will, a grand, imposing building called the Museum of Me. It is a sprawling institution, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you. You are its only patron, its curator, its head of security, its tour guide, and its janitor. It is a full-time job, and you are exhausted. Wing 1, the Hall of Past Achievements. Here, under carefully calibrated soft lights, your trophies are displayed. The diploma, the promotion letter, the photo from that perfect vacation. You polish these glass cases daily, but the warmth of the memory is fading, replaced by a dull, persistent anxiety. Can I ever top that? Is this as good as it gets? Wing 2, the Gallery of Future Projects. Here are architectural models of your dream life, shimmering holograms of the person you're going to become, blueprints for perfect relationships. They are beautiful, inspiring, and utterly unreal. You spend hours tweaking the models, worried the foundation isn't right, that the colors are off. Wing 3, the Dungeon of Failures and Regrets. This wing is poorly lit, dusty, and cold. Here, in shadowy corners, lie the artifacts of your shame. The embarrassing email you sent, the opportunity you let slip through your fingers, the hurtful words you can't take back. You try to keep this wing locked, but you find yourself sneaking down here in the lonely hours of the night, running your fingers over these relics, feeling the old wounds ache. Wing 4, the Hall of Mirrors, How Others See Me. This is the busiest, most stressful wing. The mirrors don't show your reflection. They show projections of what you think your boss sees, your parent sees, your partner sees, that acquaintance from social media sees. You rush from mirror to mirror, adjusting your hair, your expression, your personal narrative, trying to manage the unmanageable, other people's perceptions. You are constantly giving tours of this museum to yourself. And over here, as you can see, is where I proved I was competent. And this corridor leads to the wing where I fear I will be exposed as a fraud. Your entire sense of self, that solid, weighty feeling of I, of me, is woven from the stories housed in this museum. This me feels so real. It needs to be defended, improved, polished, and protected at all costs. This is exhausting. This is the root of anxiety, of pride, of insecurity, of that deep loneliness that persists even in a crowd. The Buddha, in his profound wisdom, walked into this museum. He strolled through the Hall of Achievements, peered at the future projections, sat in the Dungeon of Regret, and observed the frantic activity in the hall of mirrors. Then he said something utterly revolutionary. He said, "There is no permanent curator here. The artifacts are all on loan. The walls are made of mist. The myth that this entire museum is built to honor is a narrative. A story. A process. Not a solid thing." He called this anatta, no self. This is not a nihilistic claim that you don't exist. It is a liberating insight into how you exist. You exist as a dynamic, flowing formation. A temporary gathering of 5 elements, constantly changing. Your body, form made entirely of borrowed elements, food from the earth, water from the rain, air from the sky. A constantly changing process of cells dividing, dying, renewing. Your feelings, sensation pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. They are like weather patterns moving through the nervous system. They arise, they stay a while, they pass. Your perceptions, recognition, this is a tree. This is my mother. This is a problem. These are labels applied by your conditioning, your past, your language. They are not the thing itself. Your mental formations, habits, your thoughts, opinions, desires, fears, inclinations. This is the software running on the hardware of your brain. It's learned, it's repetitive, it's powerful, and it's not you. Your consciousness, awareness, the knowing of all the above. The screen upon which the movie of body, feeling, perception, and thought is projected. Spacious, clear, and inherently peaceful. Where is the solid, separate, unchanging me in this? It's like pointing to a river and saying, that is the river self. But the river is water flowing, banks shaping, gravity pulling, sun evaporating. There is no thing called river apart from that flowing, interdependent process. There is only revering. You are not a static statue in a museum. You are personing. You are a verb. The practice is to step out of your exhausting roles as the museum's frantic staff. Hang up your curator's coat, set down your security badge, put away the janitor's mop. Instead, become a simple, curious, compassionate visitor to the one living exhibit that is always here, your present moment experience. When you feel a surge of social anxiety about the upcoming holiday dinner, a feeling arising from wing 3 or 4, don't become the anxious curator, clutching your badge in panic. Instead, notice, the experience of anxiety is here. Feel its physical signature, the clenching in the stomach, the slight racing of the heart. Observe the thought story it's telling, I'll say something stupid. They'll judge me. See these, the feeling and the thought, as artifacts passing through the museum. Temporary exhibits. They are not definitions of you. You are the spacious awareness in which the anxiety is happening. You are the hall, not the exhibit. This shift, from being the statue to being the space, is the moment of freedom. It means you can walk into a family gathering not as the successful one or the disappointment or the peacemaker, all heavy statues from your museum, but simply as awareness, lovingly incarnated in this body, meeting other wonderful, temporary formations of life. You can listen to your aunt's story without your museum immediately interpreting it through its old, dusty exhibits of your childhood. This is where real, fresh, authentic connection begins. Chapter 11, The Mapmaker of Internal Landscapes, New Story. In a kingdom obsessed with exploration, there lived a mapmaker named Silas who refused to draw maps of external lands. Instead, he created maps of internal territories, the swamp of lingering regret, the mountains of future anxiety, the forest of forgotten dreams, the river of present sensation. Other mapmakers mocked him. What use are maps of places that don't exist? They'd ask. You can't trade there, can't conquer there. It's not real geography. But people in quiet suffering began to seek him out. The woman haunted by a decision made years ago would come, and Silas would unroll a map of the swamp of lingering regret. See, he'd say, pointing. This is where you're stuck. But notice, here, to the east, is a path called forgiveness of past self. And here, a solid island called lessons integrated. The swamp isn't endless. It has edges. It has ways through. The man paralyzed by worry about his children's future would receive a map of the mountains of future anxiety. Observe the peaks, Silas would murmur. They look insurmountable from below. But here, his finger would trace a thin, almost invisible line, is the pass of just today. And this high meadow is called trust in their resilience. The mountains are not your permanent home. They're terrain to cross. Silas's most profound insight, however, was this. He never drew the same map twice. When someone returned saying, I followed your map, but the landmarks have changed, Silas would smile. Of course, he'd say. Internal landscapes are alive. They shift with weather of emotion, seasons of insight. The map is not the territory. It's a snapshot of a relationship. He taught people to become their own mapmakers. Feel the ground under your feet right now, he'd instruct. Is it solid or shaky? That tells you what territory you're in. Notice the quality of light in your mind. Is it bright and clear, the plateau of clarity, or dim and foggy, the valley of confusion? Listen to the internal sounds. Are they chaotic, the rapids of mental chatter, or quiet, the lake of stillness? The real magic happened when people stopped trying to escape their internal territories and started learning to navigate them. The swamp of regret, when fully felt and mapped, often revealed itself to be fertile ground for compassion. The mountains of anxiety, when climbed with present moment attention, offered breathtaking views of one's own courage. One day, a young artist came to Silas, blank with creative despair. I'm in the desert of emptiness, she whispered. There's nothing there. No ideas. No inspiration. Just barren. Silas didn't draw a map of escape. He drew a map of the desert itself. He marked, oasis of rest here, often missed in frantic searching. Mesa of patience. Hidden canyon where seeds wait for rain. Stars visible at night, unseeable in crowded, idea-filled places. The artist followed the map not as an escape route, but as an exploration guide. She learned to sit in the desert instead of fighting it. To feel its emptiness as space rather than lack. And in that spaciousness, months later, the first green shoot of a new idea broke through the sand. The desert hadn't been an enemy, it had been the necessary fallow period before new growth. We all have our internal territories that we try to avoid or conquer. The holiday season often brings us to specific places, the crowded market of obligations, the thin ice of family dynamics, the nostalgia mountains, beautiful but slippery, the comparison caverns, where everyone else's holiday looks better. We usually have two strategies: fight the territory, I shouldn't feel this way, or flee it, I'll just stay busy so I don't have to feel this. Silas's approach offers a third way: map it. Navigate it. Be in relationship with it. Right now, pause. Ask yourself, what internal territory am I in this moment? Don't judge it as good or bad. Just name it descriptively. Quiet library of mourning, or rushed highway of preparation, or soft meadow of memory. Feel its texture. Notice its landmarks. The practice is to become the compassionate mapmaker of your own inner world. When you find yourself in a difficult territory, say, the frustration marshes while dealing with holiday logistics, instead of cursing the marshes, map them. Ah, here is the quicksand of impatience. There is the firm ground of one task at a time. Over there, the bridge of asking for help. This doesn't make the territory instantly pleasant, but it makes it navigable. It gives you agency. You're not lost in a swamp, you're exploring a swamp with a map. And sometimes, in the careful mapping, you discover that what looked like a treacherous swamp is actually a vital wetland ecosystem, purifying and transforming as part of your inner landscape's natural cycle. Chapter 12: The Weatherman in the Storm. There was a weatherman in a small coastal town who took his profession with a deadly, personal seriousness. He believed, in his heart, that he was responsible for the weather. When his forecast of sunshine turned to sudden rain, he was filled with shame and anxiety, certain the townspeople were glaring at him from behind their rain-streaked windows. When a predicted hurricane veered out to sea at the last moment, he'd feel a surge of pride, as if he had personally persuaded the high-pressure system to stay. He lived in a constant state of tension. He shook his fist at incoming clouds. He pleaded with jet streams. He was exhausted, depressed, and increasingly isolated, a prisoner of the sky he was meant to report. One afternoon, a violent thunderstorm he had completely failed to predict rolled in. Lightning split the sky. Rain lashed the streets. The weatherman was in his observation tower, head in his hands, utterly despondent. "They'll fire me," he moaned to the empty room. "They'll all hate me." The door opened. It was the old farmer from the edge of town, his boots dripping on the floor. He stood quietly for a moment, looking at the hunched figure, then out at the raging storm. "Did you make this storm?" the farmer asked, his voice calm. "Of course not," the weatherman snapped, without looking up. "Can you stop it?" "No." "Then what?" The farmer said, moving to stand beside him at the window. Is your job? The weatherman blinked, confused. To predict it. To measure the barometric pressure, track the fronts, report the conditions. Exactly, said the farmer, placing a weathered hand on his shoulder. Your job is to observe and report the weather. Not to be the weather. You've been confusing yourself with the whole damn sky. No wonder you're tired. You're trying to do a job that belongs to the sun, the ocean, and the wind. We are all weathermen who think we are the weather. Our inner world has its own climate. The bright sunshine of joy, the soft clouds of contentment, the sudden thunderstorms of anger, the gentle, soaking rains of sadness, the thick fog of confusion. Our deeply conditioned habit, the ordinary view, is to identify with these passing weather patterns. We fuse with them. When anger arises, we think, I am an angry person. When sadness comes, we believe, I am a sad person. When anxiety swirls like a blizzard, we're convinced, I am an anxious person. We take a temporary, impersonal weather system and build a whole identity, a whole personal history, around it. We then feel responsible for it, ashamed of it, or desperately try to change it. We shake our fists at our own internal clouds. This fusion is a recipe for profound, unnecessary suffering. The Buddha's practice teaches us to become the weatherman, not the weather. Your awareness is the weatherman in the observation tower. It is grounded, present, and capable of observation. Your thoughts, your feelings, your bodily sensations, these are the weather patterns passing through the vast sky of your mind and body. The practice is to do the job of the weatherman with diligence and compassion. 1. Observe. I notice a low-pressure system of anxious thoughts moving in. I feel the physiological effects, tightening in the chest, shallow breath. 2. Report, internally, neutrally, current conditions, heavy mental precipitation of what-ifs. Gusts of regret. Visibility low due to emotional fog. 3. Remember your position, I am the one observing this. I am in the tower. I am not the storm. Storms, by their very nature, arise, stay for a time, and pass. This changes everything. When the holiday blizzard hits, the whirling winds of logistics, the blinding snow of expectations, the ice of old family dynamics, you don't have to be the blizzard. You can be the calm, professional, grounded observer in the tower. You note, blizzard conditions. High winds of obligation. Significant accumulation of tasks. Advice to self, proceed with slow, mindful steps. Seek shelter in the breath. This system, like all systems, will eventually pass. You don't suppress the storm. A good weatherman doesn't deny the hurricane, he acknowledges it with clear eyes and respect. But he doesn't for a second believe he caused it, and he knows his core being, his tower, isn't destroyed by it. He rides it out from his place of grounded, compassionate observation. Tonight, or tomorrow, when a difficult emotional weather pattern arises, a squall of irritation, a drizzle of melancholy, try it. Place a hand on your heart, your own internal tower. Say to yourself, "This is the weather of me right now." Name it. Feel it fully, without fighting it. But anchor part of your awareness in the knowing, the feeling, that you are the spacious awareness experiencing the weather. You are the sky. Vast, open, unchanging in its essential nature. The weather is just a visitor passing through. Chapter 13, The Bridge That Forgets Itself, New Story. Between two ancient cities, separated by a deep, roaring canyon, there stood a bridge of such perfect engineering that it seemed to defy physics. It was called the Bridge of Meeting. For generations, it had carried travelers, merchants, lovers, and armies between the two lands. The bridge was proud of its role. It knew its arches were the strongest, its cables the most tensile, its deck the smoothest. It felt every footstep as validation, every crossing as proof of its importance. Without me, it would think as it watched the river far below, these two cities would be isolated. I am essential. But this pride came with a burden. The bridge felt responsible for every interaction that happened upon it. When two merchants argued mid-span, the bridge felt it had failed. When a couple parted in sadness, the bridge absorbed their sorrow. When armies crossed to war, the bridge felt the weight of their aggression in its very stones. It began to crack under the pressure of all these stories. One night, during a storm that shook its very foundations, the bridge cried out in its stone and steel heart, "I cannot bear it all. The joy, the sorrow, the commerce, the conflict. I am just a bridge." In that moment of surrender, something shifted. The bridge stopped trying to hold the stories. It simply returned to being what it was, a structure of connection. It remembered its true nature, not as the author of the crossings, but as the space for crossing. The emptiness that allowed movement. The form that made meeting possible. As this realization dawned, the cracks in its stones began, miraculously, to knit themselves. Not because it was trying harder, but because it had stopped trying to be more than a bridge. It had remembered how to simply be empty, strong, and present. The next morning, a wise traveler paused at the bridge's center. He placed his hand on the railing and smiled. "You've learned," he whispered. "A bridge that forgets itself is the strongest bridge of all. It doesn't get in the way of the crossing. We are all bridges that think we're the traffic. Our sense of self, the I that feels solid and separate, is like that proud bridge. It believes it's responsible for everything that happens in our lives, our thoughts, our feelings, our relationships, our successes and failures. It takes ownership of the traffic crossing through our awareness, and it cracks under the weight. I am anxious, we say, as if anxiety is who we are, not just a temporary visitor crossing the bridge of our awareness. I am a failure, we declare, turning a single event into an identity. I must make everyone happy at Christmas, we believe, taking responsibility for emotions that belong to others. This identification is exhausting. It's what makes the holidays feel so heavy. You're not just experiencing your own feelings, you're trying to manage, control, and be responsible for the feelings of everyone around you. You've become a bridge trying to direct traffic rather than simply provide passage. The practice is to become the bridge that forgets itself. Your awareness is the bridge. Strong, spacious, capable of holding whatever comes. Your thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, these are the travelers crossing. Your job isn't to control where they're going or judge their purpose. Your job is simply to be the stable, empty space that allows the crossing to happen. When Uncle Joe starts his annual political rant at dinner, you don't have to be the bridge that gets into an argument with him, identifying with one position. You don't have to be the bridge that tries to fix him, identifying with the peacemaker role. You can simply be the bridge. Provide the space for his words to cross. Provide the space for your own reaction to arise and pass. Provide the space for the conversation to move on. The bridge doesn't get into arguments with travelers. It holds them all equally. This doesn't mean becoming passive or uncaring. Quite the opposite. A bridge that knows it's just a bridge can be more present, more stable, more truly compassionate. It doesn't collapse under the weight of others' suffering because it doesn't mistake their suffering for its own structure. It can offer steady support precisely because it remembers its true nature, empty, strong, and here for connection. Try it now. For a few breaths, drop the identification with whatever is crossing your awareness. Thoughts come. Ah, a thought crossing. Emotions arise. A feeling crossing. Sensations. Sensation crossing. You are not the traffic. You are the bridge. Spacious. Stable. Present. This holiday, when you feel yourself getting caught in the drama, the expectations, the emotional currents, remember the bridge. Your primary job isn't to control the crossing. Your job is to remember you're the space that makes meeting possible. And in that remembering, you'll find a strength and peace that no amount of identified effort could ever achieve. Chapter 14, The Sculptor and the Clay. A young, passionate sculptor traveled across the land to study with the greatest master of the age. He found the old man in a sun-drenched studio, his hands covered in fine gray dust. "Teach me," the young man begged, his eyes burning with ambition. "Teach me to capture the true, living essence of my subject. I want my statues to be so real they seem to breathe, to have a soul looking out from the stone." The master regarded him for a long moment, then nodded. "First," he said, "you must learn about clay." For a full year, the apprentice did nothing but work with clay. He dug it from the riverbank, sifted it to remove stones, wedged it for hours to achieve the perfect consistency. He learned how it felt when wet and eager, how it stiffened as it dried, how it cracked if forced. He grew deeply frustrated. "Master," he protested one day, slamming a lump of clay onto the table. "I came to sculpt forms. To create beauty. Not to play in the mud like a child." The master, unmoved, continued smoothing a formless mound with his thumb. "Until you know the clay as yourself," he said quietly, "you will only ever impose your will upon it. You will make statues of your own ideas, your own ego. You will make copies of copies. You will never touch life. Defeated, the apprentice went back to his muddy work. But something shifted in the second year. The frustration began to melt into a kind of intimacy. He wasn't just handling an inert material anymore, he was in a subtle, responsive relationship with it. He could feel its resistance and its willingness. He knew when it was thirsty for more water, when it was perfectly pliable, when it needed to rest. He stopped seeing it as something to be dominated. It became a partner. Finally, the master said he was ready for his first portrait. His subject was an old woman from the village, her face a map of kindness and time. The apprentice prepared a large block of clay and sat before it. He didn't pick up a tool. He didn't start shaping. He simply sat, his hands resting lightly on the cool clay. He looked at the woman, not to analyze the distance between her eyes or the line of her jaw, but to feel her quiet presence. To receive her. Slowly, as if moved by a will other than his own, his hands began to move. He wasn't carving a face out of the clay. He was collaborating with the clay, following its suggestions, allowing the essence of the woman to emerge from within it. Days later, when he pulled the cloth from the finished sculpture, the master and the woman herself gasped. It wasn't a mere likeness. It felt as if her spirit, her gentle strength, her history, were present in the very grain of the fired clay. The statue was alive. The master smiled, a rare, full smile. "You see," he said. "You stopped sculpting. You started listening." The true form was always waiting within the clay, waiting for a relationship respectful enough, patient enough, to reveal it. We treat ourselves, our lives, our personalities, our emotional states, like bad, impatient sculptors treat clay. We have a rigid, idealized blueprint of who we should be, the perfect, patient parent. The enlightened, always calm seeker. The effortlessly gracious holiday host. The person who has it all together. We then spend immense amounts of energy trying to force, carve, chisel, and sand our actual, living, messy human experience into that rigid, preconceived statue. We deny the natural grain of our own clay, our fatigue, our irritation, our loneliness, our need for quiet. We see our authentic feelings as flaws, as ugly lumps to be carved away. This is a violence we do to ourselves. It creates relentless internal conflict, exhaustion, and a deep, pervasive sense of being a fraud. The practice is to become the master sculptor with your own life. First, get to know your clay. This is the heart of mindfulness of the body and feelings. Instead of immediately judging your anxiety as bad clay to be discarded, get curious. Feel it. Where in the body does it live? What is its texture? Is it hard and cold like day-old clay? Is it shaky and wet? This isn't indulging the feeling, it's knowing your material intimately. You can't work with what you refuse to feel. Second, drop the rigid blueprint. The ideal me statue is a fantasy, a ghost. Let it go. What wants to emerge authentically from the clay of this present moment? Maybe it's not joyful holiday reveler, but tired human who needs a quiet walk. That is a valid, beautiful, and true form. Third, collaborate, don't dominate. Work with your energy levels. If the clay of your being is tired and stiff, don't force it to go to a loud party. Maybe the form that wants to emerge is sitting by the fire with a book. Work with your feelings. If sadness is in the clay today, don't try to carve a bright smile over it. Allow the dignified, beautiful, human form of sadness honored and held to emerge. It has its own wisdom. This Christmas, you will undoubtedly have blueprints. The family dinner should be harmonious and happy. I should feel nothing but festive joy. The gifts should be perfect. These are statues you're trying to force into existence, often against the grain of reality. The practice is to put down the chisel. To feel the actual clay of the day as it is. Is it soft with tenderness? Brittle with old, unspoken tensions? A bit chaotic and wet? Collaborate with that. If the clay of the family dynamic is tense, maybe the authentic, compassionate form that emerges isn't forced caroling, but an honest, quiet moment of eye contact, or the simple act of passing the gravy without a barbed comment. Or perhaps it's the form of giving yourself permission to take a 5-minute break alone. You are not failing if the statue doesn't match the glossy brochure in your mind. You are succeeding brilliantly when the form that emerges from the day is true, respectful, and loving toward the ever-changing, alive clay of your own being, and the being of others. That is the art of a life lived awake. Chapter 15, The Mirror That Reflects Nothing, New Story. In the palace of a vain queen, there was a mirror unlike any other. It didn't reflect images. Instead, when someone looked into it, they saw nothing. Not blackness, not emptiness, but a kind of luminous, clear space. The queen hated it. A mirror's job is to show me my beauty, she declared, and had it banished to the deepest storeroom. There, the mirror stood for years, forgotten. Until one day, a young maid named Alara, tasked with cleaning the storerooms, discovered it. Exhausted from a long day of being criticized, judged, and ordered about, she looked into the strange glass expecting to see her tired, plain face. Instead, she saw that luminous clear space. For a moment, she felt disoriented. Then, something unexpected happened. In that reflection of nothing, she felt a profound relief. All the labels that had been stuck to her all day, clumsy, slow, plain, unimportant, fell away. In the mirror's clear space, she was free of definition. She wasn't the sum of others' opinions. She wasn't even Alara the maid. She was just presence. Awareness itself, looking. She began visiting the mirror whenever she could. Not to see herself, but to remember what she was when she wasn't being anything in particular. The clear space in the mirror became a sanctuary. It didn't tell her she was beautiful or worthy, it simply gave her back to herself, undefined. One day, the queen's daughter, a princess perpetually anxious about her royal image, stumbled upon Alara looking into the mirror with a peaceful smile. "What do you see?" the princess asked, peering over her shoulder. "I see nothing. Exactly, Elara said softly. Try it. The princess looked. At first, she panicked. Where am I? My face, my crown, my jewels, they're gone. But Elara placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Just stay with the nothing. Don't look for anything. The princess did. And slowly, the panic subsided. In its place came a feeling she'd never known, freedom from being a princess. Freedom from the weight of her role, her expectations, her constant performance. She was, for the first time, simply awake awareness. No title. No story. Just being. Word spread quietly through the palace staff. That nothing mirror became a secret refuge. The overworked cook would look into it and remember he wasn't just the cook. The stern guard would glance and recall he wasn't just the guard. Even the queen, in a moment of secret curiosity, looked. And for a fleeting second, saw herself not as a queen, but as a woman, unadorned, real. The mirror never reflected anything. It simply gave people back to themselves before the labels. It showed them the clear space of awareness that exists before identity solidifies. We spend our lives looking into mirrors that tell us who we are. The mirror of other people's opinions. The mirror of social media likes. The mirror of our achievements and failures. The mirror of our roles. Parent, professional, host, helper. These mirrors give us back a reflected self, a defined identity. And we believe that reflection is who we truly are. But like the queen, we often hate what we see. The reflection never seems good enough, secure enough, consistent enough. We try to adjust the person in the mirror, improve them, decorate them, fix them, but it's exhausting. Because the reflection isn't us. It's just a story about us, projected onto the glass of circumstance. The practice of mindfulness is finding the nothing mirror within. It's that space of awareness that exists before thoughts, before labels, before identity. It's the clear, luminous space that simply knows. Knows the breath. Knows the sensation. Knows the sound. Knows the thought arising. But isn't any of those things. When you're caught in holiday stress, trying to be the perfect host, the grateful recipient, the cheerful relative, pause. Close your eyes for a moment. Look for the nothing mirror. Not with your physical eyes, but with your awareness. Ask, who is aware of all this striving? Who knows the anxiety about the meal? Who feels the pressure to perform? Before you answer with a role or a name, just notice, there is awareness. Clear, space-like awareness. That's the nothing mirror. It doesn't reflect an image of you as a stressed host. It simply knows stress is here. It doesn't reflect you as a failed celebrant. It simply knows disappointment is here. Resting in that clear, reflective space, even for a few breaths, changes everything. You're no longer identified with the reflection. You're the awareness in which the reflection appears. The stressful thoughts don't stop, but they stop being you. They become weather passing through the sky of your awareness. Try it now. For 3 breaths, don't try to be anything. Don't try to be mindful, or peaceful, or good at this. Simply be the awareness that knows the breath moving. That's all. You're not a meditator. You're not a person trying to get better. You're just awareness, knowing breath. That's the nothing mirror. And in it, you are free of all definitions, all roles, all stories. Just awake, clear space. This holiday, between roles and expectations, remember you have this mirror within. You don't have to believe every reflection the world gives you. You can return to the clear space that knows but isn't defined by what it knows. That's your true home. That's who you really are, beneath all the Christmas sweaters and holiday rolls. Chapter 16, The Gardener of Wild Seeds, New Story. In a kingdom of meticulously planned gardens, there lived an old gardener named Finn who tended a plot of land that everyone called the Chaos Patch. While other gardeners planted in straight rows, pruned to geometric perfection, and eradicated any plant not in their design, Finn did something different. He would walk through forests and meadows, collecting seeds, not the cultivated, predictable seeds from market packets, but wild seeds, the ones with feathery parachutes, sticky burrs, hard cases that needed fire to crack. He'd scatter them in his plot seemingly at random. Then he'd wait. And watch. The royal gardener scoffed. That's not gardening. That's abandonment. You can't just let things grow as they will. But Finn would smile, his hands stained with earth. I'm not letting them grow as they will, he'd say. I'm letting them grow as they are. His chaos patch became the talk of the kingdom, but not for its order. For its surprising, resilient beauty. One year, after a harsh winter, when the formal gardens were struggling, Finn's patch erupted in a riot of color and form. Flowers no one had ever seen before bloomed in impossible combinations. Plants thought to be incompatible grew intertwined, supporting each other. Birds and bees flocked there in numbers unseen elsewhere. A young, ambitious gardener confronted him. Teach me your system. What's your secret? Finn handed her a handful of mixed seeds, tiny, varied, anonymous. The secret, he said, is that I don't have a system. I have a relationship. I provide good soil, water, sunlight. I pull the weeds that would choke everything. But I don't decide what should grow. I don't try to make a daisy into a rose. I watch to see what wants to emerge from each seed's own intelligence. My job isn't to control. It's to attend. To protect the conditions for wildness to express itself. He pointed to a vibrant purple flower growing next to a thorny bush. See that? I didn't plant them together. They found each other. The bush provides shade the flower needs. The flower's scent keeps pests from the bush. They worked it out themselves. My only part was not interfering. The young gardener protested, but what if something ugly grows? What if a weed takes over? Finn's eyes twinkled. What's a weed? Sometimes the plant we call a weed is just medicine we haven't learned to use yet. Sometimes it's preparing the soil for what comes next. Sometimes. He knelt, touching a lowly, broad-leafed plant. It's the most important thing here, and we're just too blind to see it. Our minds are like royal gardeners trying to control the chaos patch of our inner experience. We have plans for what should grow: happiness, peace, confidence, productivity. We try to plant only good seeds, positive thoughts, uplifting emotions. We ruthlessly weed out anything that doesn't fit our design: sadness, anger, confusion, fatigue. But our inner landscape is wild at heart. It has its own intelligence. The seeds that fall into our consciousness aren't all from cultivated packets. They come from everywhere: childhood memories, cultural conditioning, genetic predispositions, random experiences. Some need fire to crack open. Some need to lie dormant through winter. Some look like weeds but turn out to be medicine. The holiday season often brings a conflict between our inner royal gardener and our inner chaos patch. We have a design: should feel joyful, connected, grateful. But what actually sprouts might be loneliness, fatigue, grief for lost loved ones, irritation at family patterns. Our gardener self wants to rip these out immediately. These don't belong in my Christmas garden. But what if we practiced being thin instead? What if our job isn't to control what grows, but to attend to the conditions and let the wild intelligence of our being express itself? The conditions are simple: non-judgmental awareness, compassionate space, patient attention. Then, we watch. What's actually growing in this moment's chaos patch? Not what we wish was growing. What's actually here? Maybe it's a patch of melancholy, blue and delicate. Maybe it's a thorny bush of resentment. Maybe it's a sudden, bright flower of unexpected connection. We attend without immediately labeling weed or flower. We notice relationships. Ah, the sadness seems to be growing right next to the memory of my father. They're intertwined. We protect the conditions. When the inner critic comes to weed the sadness, we gently say, "No, let's watch. This might have something to teach us." Sometimes, in this patient attending, we discover that the weed of grief is actually fertilizing the ground for deeper connection. That the thorny irritation is protecting a tender vulnerability. That plants we thought were incompatible are actually supporting each other in ways we couldn't have planned. The practice: for the next few minutes, be the gardener of wild seeds. Don't try to cultivate any particular state. Just provide the conditions of gentle attention. Notice what's growing in your inner landscape right now. No weeding. No forcing. Just curious, compassionate observation. You might discover that your inner chaos patch is more beautiful, more intelligent, and more resilient than any perfectly controlled garden could ever be. Chapter 17, The Gatekeeper at Nowhere Gate. In the center of a bustling, walled city, there was a peculiar gate. It was ornate, heavily fortified, and always closed. It was called Nowhere Gate, because it opened not onto a road or a river, but onto a wide, empty, sun-drenched field that stretched to the horizon. For generations, a gatekeeper had been posted there. His duty, passed down from father to son, was to guard this gate against all threats. The current gatekeeper was a serious man. He stood straight, checked the massive lock hourly, and peered through the iron bars with suspicion. Citizens would ask, "What are you guarding against?" "There's nothing out there." He would reply sternly, "Exactly. And it must stay that way. Who knows what nothing might bring?" He took immense pride in his vigilance. He polished the lock until it shone. He recorded every bird that flew over in a logbook. He was respected, but also deeply, profoundly tired. The strain of guarding against an abstract, unseen threat from an empty field was wearing his soul thin. One crisp autumn morning, a strong gust of wind blew a single, golden maple leaf through the bars of the gate. It spiraled down and landed at his polished boots. He stared at it, heart pounding. An incursion. Then, a moment later, a bright yellow butterfly fluttered through and landed on the gate itself. No alarm sounded. No disaster struck. Cautiously, heart in his throat, he did the unthinkable. He took the great key, turned it in the lock, and pushed the gate open. Just a crack. Then wider. He stepped through. The sun was warm on his face. The grass was soft under his feet. He heard crickets, saw wildflowers nodding in the breeze. There was no threat. There was only peace, spaciousness, and quiet life. He sank to his knees, then sat, then finally lay back in the grass, staring at the vast blue sky. The gate didn't need guarding. The threat was a story, a thought, a duty inherited but never questioned. The peace he had sought his whole life wasn't inside the busy city, or beyond some distant horizon. It was here, in this field that had always been just outside the wall. Your mind has such a gate. It's called, "When I finally," or, "If only I had," or, "Once this happens." It is the gate you stand before, believing that real life, real peace, real happiness is on the other side of some achievement, some resolution, some perfect condition. You guard the present moment fiercely, judging it as not enough, too stressful, too boring, believing it must be defended against or rushed through to get to the good part. But the gate, dear one, opens to nowhere but here. The field is this present moment, exactly as it is. The peace isn't waiting in the future, it's growing like wildflowers in the field where you're already standing, if you just stop guarding, turn the key, and step through. The practice is to leave your post. When you catch yourself waiting for your life to begin, when you think, "I'll be happy when the holidays are over," or "I can relax after I finish this list," that is the gatekeeper speaking. Feel your feet on the ground, right now. Take one conscious breath, right now. Look around with soft eyes, right now. You are already in the field. The gate is an illusion made of thought. Let the leaf of a passing sensation blow through. Let the butterfly of a spontaneous joy land. Your only duty, your only calling, is to notice the wildflowers of experience growing at your feet in this very moment. And so we arrive at Part 3, The Web of Being. Chapter 18. The Navigator's Map. Centuries before GPS, Polynesian voyagers accomplished one of humanity's greatest feats of wayfinding. In double-hulled canoes, they crossed thousands of miles of trackless Pacific Ocean, navigating not by compass or sextant, but by a deep, embodied knowing. They didn't use charts with fixed lines. They carried a living map in their bones. A master wayfinder would lie in the canoe, feeling its pitch and roll, becoming one with the rhythm of the sea. He would watch the stars not as isolated points of light, but as a moving, storied dome, grandfathers pointing the way. He would read the direction of ocean swells, the flight patterns of certain birds, the color and temperature of the water, the shape and movement of clouds. He would taste the air on his tongue for the distant scent of land or the specific smell of a current. He did not see himself as a separate dot moving across a blank, passive grid. He saw himself as a node in a vast, pulsing, intelligent web of relationships, between canoe and ocean, between star and horizon, between wind and sail, between his own heartbeat and the heartbeat of the sea. He knew his position not by abstract coordinates, but by his felt, living connection to everything around him. He was never truly lost, because to be lost implies a fundamental separation from the web. He was always in relationship, always home, even in the middle of the deepest blue. We modern humans navigate with a very different map. Our map is one of radical separation. On our internal GPS, we are a lonely, blinking dot labeled me. Other people are other blinking dots. Objects are inert landmarks. The world is the blank, meaningless space between these points. The goal of life becomes moving our me dot toward other dots we want, love, success, approval. And away from dots we fear, failure, rejection, discomfort. Life is reduced to the journey of an isolated, hungry dot trying to acquire things, avoid pain, and eventually reach a destination called happiness or success. This map of separation is the source of so much of our suffering, our profound loneliness, our relentless competition, our disregard for the living world. If you are just a dot, you are fundamentally, existentially alone. You must acquire other dots, possessions, status, accolades, to feel significant. Other dots are either for you or against you. The world is a backdrop for your personal drama. The Buddha was a master wayfinder of consciousness. He threw out the dot map entirely and taught navigation by interbeing, praditya samutpada, dependent co-arising. He said nothing, not a single thing, exists independently. Everything is a node in an infinite, shimmering web of mutual cause and effect. A flower, for example, does not exist as a separate, self-contained dot. It is. It is made entirely of non-flower elements. A flower is with cloud, for rain, earth, for soil and minerals, sun, for light and warmth, time, for the season of its blooming, space, for the field in which it grows, farmer, who planted the seed, bee, that pollinated it. Even the gardener, who may or may not appreciate it. Remove any of these non-flower elements, and the flower ceases to be. The flower has no separate, independent self. Its true nature is interbeing. It is a temporary, beautiful convergence of the whole cosmos. You are a flower. You are with. The oxygen you just inhaled, exhaled yesterday by a tree, a forest, an ocean. The water you drank, which fell as rain a season ago, which has been cycling through clouds, rivers, and living beings for millennia. The food you ate, grown by farmers you'll never meet, transported by truck drivers, sold by clerks. The language you think in, a gift from countless generations who shaped its sounds and meanings. The people who have loved you, hurt you, taught you, ignored you, their words and actions are woven into the very fabric of your thoughts and emotions. The culture that provides the stories, the holidays, the very concept of a self that you are exploring right now. Where is the separate, lonely me? It is an illusion, a trick of perception. You are a temporary, wondrous convergence of the entire universe. You are a location where the cosmos has become conscious of itself, for a little while. When you feel that aching loneliness at a crowded party, your me. Feeling isolated from all the other dots, pause and refresh your map. See with the eyes of a wayfinder. You are not a dot. You are breathing in air that others in the room just exhaled. You are warmed by the same fire. The sound of your voice is changing the air pressure in the room, touching their eardrums. Your smile, or your frown, is affecting the emotional atmosphere, just as theirs is affecting yours. You are nodes in a living, breathing, feeling network. The feeling of connection you crave isn't something you need to get from other dots, it is the fundamental, underlying truth of your existence that you can remember. You are already, and always, in the web. Practice this today. Pick up any ordinary object, your coffee mug, a Christmas ornament on a tree. Trace its interbeing. See the clay of the earth, the potter's hands, the miner who extracted minerals for the glaze, the truck driver, the store clerk, the person who gifted it to you or the moment you chose it. See it not as a separate, inert thing, but as a convergence point of the world, a momentary blossom of the cosmos. Then, do this with a person. See them not as a dot labeled boss, or mother, or stranger, but as a walking, talking manifestation of sun and earth, of ancestors and experiences, of joys and sorrows woven together. In this seeing, the hard edges of separation soften. Compassion, the felt sense of shared existence, arises naturally, without effort. You are not a lonely captain navigating a sea of separate dots. You are a conscious, grateful participant, wayfinding through a living, breathing ocean of interbeing. Chapter 19, The River That Remembers Every Drop, New Story. There was a river so ancient it had a memory. Not a human memory of events and dates, but a deeper, more fluid remembering. It remembered every drop of rain that had ever fallen into it, every snowflake that had melted into its current, every tear shed on its banks, every laugh that had echoed over its waters. Most people just saw a river, water moving from mountain to sea. But the wise ones who lived along its banks knew better. An old fisherman named Cale could dip his hand into the same spot day after day and feel the difference. Today the river tastes of yesterday's storm in the high mountains, he'd say. Tomorrow it will carry the cedar scent from the logging camp upstream. Children would ask him, "Does the river get confused, carrying so many memories at once?" Cale would smile, his eyes reflecting the water's movement. The river isn't confused. It's integrated. It doesn't hold memories as separate things. It holds them as itself. The storm water becomes the river. The tears become the river. The melted glacier becomes the river. It doesn't say, "This part is sad memory, this part is happy memory." It just flows, carrying it all, transformed. One year, a great drought came. The river shrank to a trickle. People panicked. The river is dying. Its memory will be lost. But Cale sat by the dwindling stream and whispered, "The river isn't in the water. The river is in the relationship between water and stone, between current and bank, between source and sea. Even if this channel runs dry, the river remembers in the shape of the stones it polished, in the banks it carved, in the groundwater below." The river is the whole process of flowing, not just the water that happens to be flowing now. When the rains finally returned and the river swelled again, it didn't come back as the same river. It came back wiser, having known scarcity. It flowed with a new humility, a deeper gratitude for its own nature. And in its renewed current, it carried the memory of the drought integrated into its being, not as a trauma, but as part of its story. Our consciousness is that river. We think our identity is the water currently flowing, our present thoughts, feelings, roles. We fear that if we change, if we heal, if we grow, we'll lose ourselves. We cling to certain memories as defining who we are. I am the person who was hurt that time. I am the one who achieved that thing. We try to keep the river flowing exactly as it is, fearing any change means loss. But like Cale's river, our true nature isn't the temporary water. It's the whole process of consciousness flowing through the landscape of experience. Every moment, every feeling, every thought becomes the river of awareness. Not as separate events held in storage, but as the river itself. The painful memory from 10 Christmases ago. It's not a separate thing stored in a mental vault. It has become part of the banks of your being, shaping how you flow now. The joy of last year's gathering. It's in the current too, mingled with everything else. The anxiety about tomorrow's dinner. That's water entering the river right now, becoming part of the flow. The practice is to stop trying to manage the river's contents and instead become the river. When a painful memory surfaces during the holidays, the absence of a loved one, a past disappointment, don't try to dam it up or divert it. Let it flow into the river of your awareness. Feel it fully. It will mix with all the other waters, the present moment sensations, the other memories, the love that's also here. The river integrates everything. It doesn't erase, but it transforms through inclusion. When you feel you're not the same person who loved Christmas as a child, that you've lost that self, remember, that child self didn't disappear. It became the river. It shaped the banks through which your current self flows. The joy you knew then is still part of the water, mingled with all the experiences since. This is especially healing during holidays, which often bring comparisons between past and present. Christmas doesn't feel like it used to. Of course not. The river has flowed through many landscapes since then. But the essence of flowing, of being alive, aware, present, that hasn't changed. That's who you really are, not any particular snapshot of the water. Right now, feel yourself as the river. Not analyzing the contents, but feeling the flow. The flow of breath. The flow of sensation. The flow of sound. The flow of thought. You're not any particular drop. You're the flowing itself. Ancient. Capacious. Able to carry storm and drought and sunshine without ceasing to be the river. In this knowing, you can meet this holiday season not as someone trying to recreate a past snapshot or control a future one, but as the river meeting its current landscape, flowing through it, being shaped by it, but never reduced to it. Always moving. Always whole. Always remembering everything by being everything. Chapter 20, The Gift of the Empty Bowl. A seeker, his mind tangled with questions, traveled a great distance to find a sage who lived in a simple hut on a mountainside. When he arrived, he poured out his confusion, his longing for enlightenment, his frustration with his practice, his sense of being incomplete and far from peace. He talked and talked, filling the small hut with his earnest, anxious words. The sage listened patiently, saying nothing. When the seeker finally wound down, the sage simply picked up a teapot and the seeker's empty bowl. Without a word, he began to pour tea. He poured steadily. The bowl filled to the brim. But he didn't stop. He kept pouring. Hot tea overflowed the rim, spilled over the seeker's hands, and pooled on the floor. The seeker yelped and jumped back. Stop. It's full. It can't take any more. The sage gently set the teapot down. Exactly, he said, his eyes kind. You are like this bowl. So full of ideas, opinions, spiritual concepts, judgments about the past, and plans for awakening that there is no space for anything new. There is no space for peace, because peace is not something you add. It is the empty space that appears when you stop pouring. When you empty the bowl. Our minds are perpetually full bowls. The tea is our constant, often unconscious, mental activity. Planning the grocery list while we drive, rehearsing a difficult conversation while we listen to music, worrying about tomorrow's meeting while we read a bedtime story to a child. We are so full of doing and thinking that we leave no room for the simple, profound experience of being. We are always adding, never emptying. We think freedom and peace will come when we finally pour in the right thing. The perfect job, the ideal relationship, the most profound spiritual experience, the flawless Christmas moment. We are forever waiting for the next, best pour. But the sage's timeless lesson is that freedom is the empty space in the bowl. It's the pause between thoughts. The silence after a sound. The rest at the very end of an out-breath. The wide-open awareness that exists when we stop filling every millisecond with mental content. The practice is to become comfortable with, even skilled at, emptying the bowl. This is not about achieving blank-mindedness or suppressing thought. It is about intentionally creating intervals of non-doing and non-thinking. It is about allowing the churning contents to settle, so you can see the bottom of the bowl, which is your own inherently aware, calm, and peaceful nature. Here are 3 practical ways to empty the bowl, especially during the full-to-bursting holiday season. 1. The minute of nothing. Set a timer for 60 seconds. For that 1 minute, your only job is to feel your body breathing. You are not trying to relax, not trying to feel peaceful, not trying to achieve a state. You are just following the physical sensation of the breath. When thoughts about cooking times or unresolved tensions arise, and they will, gently, kindly, silently say to yourself, thinking, and return your attention to the feeling of the breath. This is not a failure. It is the very core of the practice, noticing the fullness, and gently, patiently choosing to empty your attention back into the felt reality of the body. Do this 3 times a day. It is a radical act of sanity. 2. The ritual pause. Attach a moment of emptiness to a routine, automatic action. Every time you pass through a doorway today, pause for the duration of 1 conscious breath and feel your feet on the ground. Before you pick up your phone to check it, take 1 full, felt breath. Let the doorway, the phone, the refrigerator handle become a bell of mindfulness, calling you back from the world of mental pouring to taste the empty, spacious reality of now. 3. The listening post. In your next conversation, practice emptying your bowl of your own next response. Listen with your whole body. Don't formulate your rebuttal, your agreement, or your story. Just receive the other person's words as pure sound, their presence as a living phenomenon. In that emptiness of your own agenda, real listening, and the real connection that springs from it, becomes possible. When you feel overwhelmed by the holiday rush, recognize it for what it is, a bowl overflowing. Don't respond by trying to pour in more efficiency, more multitasking, more planning. That just makes more mess. Stop. Put everything down. Empty the bowl for just 1 minute. Feel the breath. Feel the body. In that created space, you won't necessarily find more to do. You will find the clarity to know what actually needs doing, and the calm, collected presence to do it from a place of balance, not panic. Chapter 21, The Mountain That Greets Each Season, New Story. There was a mountain so old it had seen civilizations rise and fall like wildflowers. It was called Still Peak, not because it was motionless, but because its stillness was of a different order than human stillness. It wasn't the absence of movement, but movement on such a vast scale that it appeared still to creatures who lived and died in seasons. People projected their stories onto Still Peak. In spring, they said it was joyful, crowned with new snowmelt. In summer, they called it generous, offering meadows of wildflowers. In autumn, they saw it as wise and melancholy, dressed in gold and crimson. In winter, they feared it as harsh and forbidding, shrouded in storms. But the mountain didn't have moods. It had relationships, with wind, with snow, with sun, with the roots of trees and the burrows of marmots. It didn't greet spring with joy or winter with resistance. It greeted each season as itself, meeting each change with its mountain nature intact. A young monk came to meditate on still peak slopes, seeking its legendary peace. He sat through a perfect autumn day, feeling serene. Then a storm blew in. Snow swirled. Wind howled. The monk, chilled and frightened, packed up to leave. As he descended, he met an old hermit who lived in a cave partway up. "Leaving so soon?" the hermit asked. "The mountain has become harsh," the monk said, shivering. "It was peaceful yesterday, but today it's angry." The hermit laughed softly. "The mountain hasn't changed. Only your relationship to it has. You wanted it to be your idea of peace, calm, sunny, gentle. When it showed you its storm nature, you called it harsh. But the mountain is just being a mountain. It holds both the calm and the storm without contradiction. That's its real teaching." The monk considered this. He turned and went back up, not to the sunny meadow, but to a sheltered overhang where he could watch the storm. This time, he didn't ask the mountain to be peaceful. He simply witnessed it being exactly what it was, massive, ancient, meeting the storm with the same essence it met the sunshine. And in that witnessing, he found a peace deeper than fair weather serenity. It was the peace of not needing things to be a certain way. The peace of meeting reality as it is, with the fullness of his attention. He realized the mountain's true stillness wasn't absence of weather, but presence through all weather. We are all visiting monks on the mountain of our own being, wanting only sunny days. We have an idea of how our inner landscape should be. Calm, happy, peaceful, especially during the holidays. When storm weather comes, stress, sadness, irritation, loneliness, we think something has gone wrong. I shouldn't feel this way at Christmas. We try to fix the weather, or we flee from it, just like the monk wanting to leave the mountain. But our essential nature is more like the mountain than the weather. Awareness itself is vast, stable, capable of holding all inner climates without being fundamentally altered by them. Joy arises like sunshine on the mountain. Sadness comes like rain. Anxiety swirls like mist. But the mountain of awareness remains, present, grounded, intact. The practice is to recognize yourself as the mountain, not the weather. When holiday stress hits, instead of thinking, "I am stressed," try, "Stress is here," like a storm on the mountain of awareness. Feel the difference. In the first, you are the storm, battered by it. In the second, you are the mountain, experiencing the storm but not reduced to it. This doesn't mean the storm isn't real or intense. Mountains feel storms powerfully. But the mountain doesn't confuse itself with the storm. It doesn't think, "I am a bad mountain because there's a storm on me." It knows, storm is happening. This is what storms do. I am here, enduring, unchanged in my mountain nature. Right now, Feel for the mountain in you. Not a physical mountain, but that quality of grounded, spacious awareness that can witness whatever is arising. Place your hands on your thighs. Feel the solidity of your sitting bones connecting to the chair, to the floor, to the earth. That's your mountain base. Feel your spine rising like a mountain ridge. Your head, the peak. Your awareness, the sky above it all, in which weather patterns of thought and emotion move. Now notice what weather is currently on your mountain. Don't judge it as good or bad weather. Just note it. Sunshine of contentment. Light rain of melancholy. Fog of uncertainty. Let it be there. The mountain doesn't argue with its weather. It experiences it fully, knowing it will change. This holiday, when emotional weather gets intense, remember still peak. You don't have to like the weather. You just have to remember you're the mountain, not the storm. You can meet your irritable relative, your cooking disaster, your loneliness, from your mountain nature, grounded, present, enduring. And in that meeting, you might discover a peace that has nothing to do with perfect conditions, and everything to do with the unshakable fact of your own aware presence. Chapter 22. The Keeper of the Unlit Lantern. In a village that celebrated the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, there was a beautiful tradition. As dusk fell, every household would light a lantern and place it in their window, creating a river of golden light through the streets. It was a festival of warmth against the dark, of community held in a cradle of light. There was one man, however, whose task was different. He was the keeper of the unlit lantern. His lantern was the oldest in the village, made of frosted, hand-blown glass, intricate and beautiful. But while every other lantern glowed, his remained dark, sitting on a stone pedestal in the central square. People, especially children, would ask him why. "It's broken," some said. "You're forgetting," said others. The keeper would simply smile and say, "So we can remember what the light shines into." This made no sense to them. The point was the light, not what it shone into. But as the night deepened and the hundreds of lit lanterns glowed like a field of captured stars, something subtle began to happen. People started to notice the unlit one. It didn't push light away, it received light. It filled with the reflected, softened glow of all the lanterns around it. It became a vessel of borrowed, collective radiance, holding the light in a deep, mysterious blue-silver way that the brightly shining ones could not. In its darkness, it held the whole festival. It was the silent, receptive heart of the celebration. We spend our lives trying to be the brightest lantern. We strive to shine, to achieve, to be seen, to be happy, to be on. We fear the unlit places within us, the quiet, the stillness, the uncertainty, the sadness, the boredom, the simple not knowing. We view these as voids, as failures, as empty spaces we must urgently fill with more light, more doing, more noise, more accomplishment. But what if your unlit places are not emptiness? What if they are the frosted glass? The part of you that can receive, that can hold the borrowed light of the world, the light of others' joy, the light of a quiet moment, the light of sorrow itself, with tenderness and depth. Your quiet isn't a lack of noise, it's a capacity for profound listening. Your sadness isn't a failure of joy, it's a tenderness that allows you to feel the fragile, beautiful weight of being alive. Your uncertainty isn't a flaw, it's the open space where wonder and new understanding can enter. The practice is to honor the unlit lantern within you. When you feel the internal and external pressure to be constantly on during the holidays, perpetually cheerful, social, productive, festive, remember the keeper. Give yourself conscious, gracious permission to be the unlit lantern for a while. Excuse yourself for 5 minutes. Sit in a quiet room, or just turn your gaze inward. Feel the weight of your own being in the chair. Don't try to shine. Don't try to generate positive feelings. Just be a vessel. Be the frosted glass. Receive the reflected light of the crackling fire, the twinkle of the tree lights, the distant murmur of laughter from another room. Receive the feeling of your own breath, the subtle hum of aliveness in your hands. In that intentional, receptive darkness, you may discover a different kind of brightness, softer, wiser, more inclusive, more real. You are not just a source of light in the world. You are also the compassionate space that makes light visible, that gives it meaning. Honoring both is the fullness of being human. Chapter 23, The Library with Living Books, New Story. In a city where knowledge was power, there was a library that held no ordinary books. Its volumes were alive. When you opened one, the words didn't sit statically on the page, they shifted, transformed, sometimes even responded to the reader's state of mind. A book about grief might offer different passages to someone newly bereaved than to someone studying grief academically. The librarians here had a unique role. They didn't just organize and preserve. They facilitated relationships between readers and books. They understood that the same book could be a different experience for each person, even for the same person at different times. A young scholar named Eris arrived, determined to master the library. He made lists of books to read, schedules to keep, notes to take. He approached a volume on love like a conquest, grasping for its secrets. The book remained stubbornly superficial for him, offering only clichés. Frustrated, he complained to the head librarian, an elderly woman with eyes that seemed to contain entire histories. "The books here are overrated," he declared. "They don't give up their real knowledge." The librarian smiled. "You're trying to extract from the books. You're not letting them meet you. Watch." She led him to the same volume on love. Instead of opening it immediately, she placed her hands on its cover and closed her eyes. She breathed. She seemed to be listening. Then, gently, she opened it. The pages bloomed with depth. Poetry Eris had never seen before appeared. Wisdom that seemed to address his own guarded heart unfolded. The book had been there all along, but it needed a certain quality of attention to reveal its depths. "The books are alive," the librarian explained. "They're in relationship with everything, with the reader, with the light in the room, with the time of day, with what other books are being read nearby. They're not containers of fixed information. They're participants in an ongoing conversation. Your job as a reader isn't to capture content. It's to show up fully and let the meeting happen. Eris tried her approach. He slowed down. He breathed before opening a book. He paid attention to what in him resonated or resisted. He noticed how a passage on courage felt different when he was anxious versus when he was calm. He began to see that reading wasn't downloading data, it was a kind of communion. The book changed him, and he, through his attention, changed what the book revealed. Our minds are libraries of living books. Our memories aren't fixed recordings. Our thoughts aren't static objects. Our feelings aren't permanent states. They're all alive, responsive, in relationship with our present moment awareness, with our bodily state, with our environment. A memory of last Christmas isn't a DVD you replay. It's a living pattern that reconstitutes itself each time you remember it, influenced by who you are now, what you need now, what else is happening now. The same memory can bring joy one year and sadness another, not because it changed, but because the relationship between you and the memory changed. This is especially important during holidays, when we often compare present experience with memories of past holidays. It was better then. I was happier. But those memories are living books, not objective records. They're telling you a story shaped by your current state as much as by the past. The practice is to become the wise librarian of your inner library, not the frantic scholar trying to master it. When a memory arises, don't just consume it. Relate to it. Notice. How does this memory feel in my body right now? What does it need from me? What might I be needing from it? Is it asking to be felt fully? Understood differently? Released? Honored? When a difficult thought or emotion surfaces, don't just try to fix it or make it go away. Open to it like opening a living book. What does this feeling have to teach right now? What wisdom might be hidden in this anxiety, this sadness, this irritation? What relationship does it want with you? This approach transforms our inner world from a problem to be solved into a conversation to be had. From a collection of static contents to a dynamic, intelligent ecosystem. Right now, think of something that's been troubling you about the holidays. Instead of analyzing it or fighting it, imagine it as a living book in your inner library. Place your hand on your heart, as if placing it on the book's cover. Breathe. Listen. Then, open to it with curiosity rather than judgment. You might be surprised by what reveals itself when you stop trying to extract an answer and start being in relationship with the question. Chapter 24, The Lesson of the Forest Floor. In an ancient, old-growth forest, the real story is happening underground, invisible to the casual eye. Through a vast, symbiotic network of fungi called mycorrhiza, the trees are in constant, intimate communication. They are not solitary competitors, they are a deeply connected community. Scientists call it the Wood Wide Web. Through this network, a mother tree will send surplus nutrients and water through the fungal filaments to a shaded seedling struggling to survive. A tree under attack by insects can send chemical warning signals through the network to neighboring trees, who then preemptively produce defensive compounds in their leaves. Most astonishingly, when a tree is dying, it will deliberately divest its resources back into the fungal network, feeding its neighbors and ensuring the health of the forest community. The forest is not a collection of individuals. It is a superorganism. We see ourselves as the towering trees, separate, independent, competing for the sunlight of success, recognition, love, security. We often hide our struggles, hoard our emotional or material resources, and perceive another's success as our loss of light. This worldview, this map of separation, creates profound isolation, a sense of scarcity, and relentless stress. The truth of interbeing reveals we are the forest, not just the tree. Your roots are your relationships, your community, your ancestors, the culture that nourishes you. Your mycorrhizal network is the invisible, constant exchange of kindness, words, emotional support, and energy between you and every person you meet, every being you affect. When you suffer in stoic silence, you are like a tree refusing to send out a chemical signal that it's under attack. You deprive the network of information, and you block the flow of nutrients of care that others could send your way. When you hoard your gifts, your compassion, your time, your attention, your forgiveness, you withhold vital sustenance from the whole ecosystem. The practice is to live from the understanding of the forest floor. 1. Share your nutrients. When you are strong, stable, resourced, send out support. A listening ear without advice. An unasked for kindness. A genuine word of encouragement. You are feeding the network, strengthening the whole. 2. Send warning signals. Vulnerably when you are struggling, dare to say, "I'm not okay," to a safe person. This is not weakness. It is a courageous chemical signal to the community. It allows others to offer their defensive compounds, their care, their empathy, their practical help. 3. Receive from the network. Allow yourself to be helped, to be loved, to receive a compliment fully. When someone offers you a gift, a meal, a kind word, receive it with an open heart. Don't block the nutrient flow with pride, guilt, or a sense of unworthiness. Your graceful receiving is a vital part of the ecosystem's health. It allows others the joy of giving. 4. Divest as you age. As you grow older and wiser, your role may naturally shift from being in the towering canopy to being part of the wise, supportive underground network. Share your resources, your time, your hard-won wisdom, your unconditional love, generously back into the community, especially to the young, seedlings. Your legacy is not the height of your individual trunk, but the health, resilience, and beauty of the forest you leave behind. This Christmas, see your family gathering not as a collection of separate, sometimes difficult trees, but as a small, precious, ancient grove. Your role is not to be the tallest, most decorated tree in the grove. Your role is to be a healthy, conscious node in the living network. Send nutrients of patience. Receive the signals of others' stress or pain with compassion, not personal offense. Understand that the grumpy uncle is, in his own way, sending a chemical signal of pain through his behavior. You don't have to fix him or agree with him. You can simply receive the signal and, if you are able, send back the nutrient of non-reactive, peaceful presence. In this way, you transform. You are no longer a separate, fragile self trying to manufacture a perfect, isolated Christmas experience. You become a living, breathing part of a greater whole, consciously contributing to the peace, understanding, and health of the entire grove. This is how we heal, not just our own sense of loneliness, but the very fabric of our shared world. Chapter 25, The Gardener Who Plants in Winter, New Story. In a village where everyone planted in spring and harvested in autumn, there was an old gardener named Marin who did something inexplicable. She planted in the dead of winter. While others sat by their fires, looking at seed catalogs and waiting for thaw, Marin would bundle up, take her basket of seeds, and go out into the frozen garden. The villagers thought her touched by the cold. The ground is iron. The seeds will freeze. It's madness. Marin would simply smile, her breath making clouds in the air. Some seeds need the winter, she'd say. They need the cracking of ice, the long dark, the patient cold. It's not madness. It's timing. She'd press seeds into the frozen earth, not all seeds, but specific ones. Bulbs that needed chilling to bloom. Seeds with hard coats that required freeze-thaw cycles to crack. Native flowers evolved to wait under snow. When spring finally came, while others were just beginning to turn their soil, Marin's garden was already stirring. Not with obvious growth, but with something subtler, a sense of readiness. And when growth did come, it came with a vigor and certainty that other gardens lacked. Her flowers bloomed with a depth of color, her vegetables with a robustness that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than the topsoil. One particularly harsh winter, a young farmer challenged her. "Prove it," he said. "Give me some of your winter seeds. I'll plant half now, in winter, and save half to plant in spring, like a normal person. We'll see which grows better." Marin gave him a handful of small, dark seeds. He did as he said. The winter-planted seeds sat under snow for months. The spring-planted ones waited in a drawer. Come spring, both sets were planted in identical conditions. The spring-planted seeds sprouted quickly, grew fast. The winter-planted ones were slower to emerge. The farmer felt smug. See? Wasted effort. But as the season progressed, something shifted. The spring-planted plants, after their initial burst, seemed shallow. They wilted in the first summer heat. Their roots were sparse. The winter-planted plants, though slower, grew steadily. Their roots went deep, seeking the moisture and coolness they remembered from under the snow. When drought came in midsummer, the spring plants withered. The winter plants endured, even thrived. Their flowers, when they finally bloomed, had a fragrance and form that seemed born of patience. The farmer visited Marin, humbled. "How did you know?" Marin was pruning a rose that had also been winter-planted years before. "I didn't know," she said. "I paid attention. I noticed that the strongest plants often came from seeds that had experienced something before sprouting. Not just water and warmth, but darkness. Cold. Waiting. The winter isn't the enemy of growth. It's part of its intelligence. Our healing and growth have winter phases that we often mistake for failure. We want our personal development to follow a spring and summer schedule, plant a positive intention, see immediate growth, harvest quick results. When we hit internal winter, periods of darkness, confusion, stagnation, emotional cold, we think we've failed. I was making progress, and now I'm back to square one. I shouldn't feel this depressed during the holidays. But what if some of our most important seeds need winter? The seed of deeper self-compassion might need the cold of repeated self-criticism to finally crack its hard shell. The seed of authentic connection might need the dark of loneliness to send its roots deep. The seed of genuine peace might need the frozen ground of anxiety to develop the resilience to bloom in all seasons. The holiday season itself is a kind of winter planting. The external festivities happen in the literal winter, in the northern hemisphere, but there's also an internal winter often at play, the contrast between cultural expectations of light and joy, and our actual inner landscape, which might include grief, fatigue, or complexity. Instead of fighting this winter, what if we practiced Marin's wisdom? What if we intentionally plant seeds in our winter ground? Plant the seed of gentle attention in the frozen ground of busyness. Plant the seed of self-kindness in the cold soil of self-judgment. Plant the seed of simple presence in the dark earth of nostalgia or worry. You might not see immediate sprouts. That's not the point. The point is the planting itself. The act of trust that something is happening underground, in the hidden intelligence of your being, that will emerge in its own time, with its own strength. Right now, identify one small, winter seed you can plant in whatever internal winter you might be experiencing. It could be as simple as, for the next 3 breaths, I will feel my feet on the ground, no matter what else is happening. Or, I will offer myself one kind thought, even if I don't feel particularly kind. Plant it. Don't look for immediate growth. Just trust the winter to do its work. Some seeds need the cold to remember they're seeds at all. And so we arrive at part 4, embodied practice, returning to the senses. Chapter 26, the anchor of breath. The breath is your lifeline. It is the most intimate bridge between the invisible world of the mind and the tangible world of the body. Between the abstract and the concrete. It is always with you, a faithful anchor waiting to tether you when the storms of thought blow hard. This is not a breathing exercise. We are not trying to achieve a certain rhythm or depth. This is an awareness exercise. We are training attention to reside in what is already, always happening. Try it now. As you listen, let your attention gently descend from the head into the body. Find where you feel the breath most distinctly. It might be at the nostrils, feeling the cool air entering and the warm air leaving. It might be in the rise and fall of the chest. It might be in the gentle expansion and release of the belly. Pick one spot. Just one. Now, for 3 breath cycles, simply feel it. Don't change it. Don't judge it as too shallow or too fast. Just feel the direct, physical sensation of breathing. The in-breath. The slight pause. The out-breath. The pause. Again. Your mind will wander. It's its nature. When you notice it has drifted into planning or remembering, simply, kindly, without any self-criticism, note wandering, and guide your attention back to the feeling of the very next breath. This returning is the practice. This is the repetition that builds the muscle of presence. Do this, just 3 conscious breaths, whenever you feel untethered, rushed, or anxious. In the car before you go inside. At your desk before a call. In the kitchen amidst the cooking chaos. It is your internal homestead. Your direct line back to the ground of your being, back to earth. Chapter 27, The Body Scan, Reclaiming the Territory. We are ghost ships. We abandon the feeling, living territory of the body for hours at a time, piloting from the isolated crow's nest of the head. The body becomes a forgotten vessel, carrying us silently while we are lost in thought. This practice is a homecoming tour. A respectful visit to every part of the kingdom you call yourself. Find a comfortable position, sitting or lying down. Close your eyes if it feels safe. We will move a spotlight of gentle attention slowly through the body. We are not analyzing, diagnosing, or trying to change anything. We are simply visiting. We are saying, I am here. I feel you. Start by bringing all your attention to the soles of your feet. Just feel them. Is there tingling? Pressure from the floor? Warmth or coolness? Don't visualize them, just feel the direct sensations. Spend 20 to 30 seconds here. Now, slowly move the spotlight up to your ankles. Feel the sensations there. Then to your calves, the shape of them against your clothing or the air. Then your knees. Your thighs. Bring the attention into the pelvis, the hips, the buttocks, feeling the weight of the body where it meets the chair or floor. Move up through the lower back, the abdomen, the upper back, the chest. Feel the gentle movement of the breath here. Bring attention to the shoulders. Often a place of held tension. Just feel what's here, without needing to relax it. Down the arms to the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the hands. Feel the aliveness in the palms and fingers. A faint pulse. A sense of energy. Move attention into the neck, the throat. Then the face, jaw, cheeks, nose, eyes, forehead, scalp. Just feel. You are not fixing a body. You are inhabiting it. You are the captain, finally walking the full deck of your ship, feeling its solidity, its life. This takes about 5 to 10 minutes. It reunites the consciousness with the form. It grounds you firmly in the here and now. Chapter 28, Sound as an Anchor. Right now, as you listen to my voice, pause for a moment. Let my words fade into the background. And just listen. Open your hearing to the entire soundscape of your environment. Don't go searching for sounds. Just let them come to you. The hum of a computer fan. The distant rumble of traffic. The creak of a house settling. The sound of your own breath. Maybe even the faint ringing of silence in your ears. The practice is to hear sound as pure sensation. Don't immediately label it, car, fridge, clock. Instead, hear it as vibration, as pitch, as tone, as texture. Let the sounds wash over you like waves, arising and passing away in the open space of your awareness. Sound is a powerful anchor to the present because it is always happening now. You cannot hear yesterday's sound. You cannot hear tomorrow's sound. You can only ever hear the sound of this moment. It is an ever-unfolding symphony of the present. Practice, for 1 full minute, be nothing but a receiving ear for the world. Don't be a commentator. Be a concert hall. Let the symphony of now, with its crashes, whispers, and silences, be your home. Chapter 29. The Night Watchman of Dreams, New Story. In a city that never truly slept, there was a night watchman named Leo whose duty was unlike any other. He didn't patrol physical streets or guard material treasures. He was the watchman of the dream threshold. His post was in a small, round tower at the edge of the waking city, and his job was to stand at the doorway between waking consciousness and the dream world. People would bring him their troubling dreams, their recurring nightmares, their confusing nocturnal visions. "What does it mean?" they'd ask anxiously. "How do I make it stop?" Leo never interpreted. Instead, he had a different practice. He'd listen to the dream, then ask, "And how did you meet it? Did you fight the monster? Did you run from the flood? Or did you stop and ask its name?" Most admitted they had fought or fled. The dream, in response, had pursued them more fiercely. Leo would then teach them his watchman's way. Tonight, he'd say, when the dream comes, don't engage its story. Don't become its character. Be the watchman at your own threshold. Feel your body in the bed, the sheets, the pillow, the breath. That's your post. From that grounded place, simply witness the dream. Say to the monster, "I see you." To the flood, "I feel your power." Don't fight. Don't flee. Just stand your post and acknowledge. It sounded too simple. But those who tried it discovered something miraculous. When they stopped being the terrified dreamer and became the watchman of the dream changed. Not because they manipulated it, but because their relationship to it shifted. The monster might reveal itself as a misunderstood protector. The flood might become a cleansing. The chase might transform into a dance. One woman, haunted by a dream of losing her voice every Christmas, came to Leo. "It's the same every year. I'm at the family dinner, I open my mouth to speak, and nothing comes out." Tonight, Leo said, be the watchman. Feel your body in bed. When the dream starts, don't try to speak. Just feel the dream body's panic. Witness it from your watchman's post. Then, ask the silence, "What are you?" That night, she did. As the dream panic arose, she felt her actual body in bed, breathing. From that anchor, she watched the dream unfold. When the silence came, instead of fighting it, she inwardly asked, "What are you?" The dream shifted. The Christmas table faded. She was in a forest, and the silence was the hush of snow falling. It was peaceful, beautiful, a relief from the noise. She woke understanding, the dream wasn't about losing her voice. It was about her need for the peace of true listening, for the quiet space beneath holiday chatter. We all have waking dreams we get lost in. The anxious, what-if, scenarios about tomorrow's gathering. The nostalgic reruns of Christmases past. The rehearsed arguments with relatives. These are daydreams, narratives we step into and get lost in, believing we're the character in the story. We fight these mental dreams, "I shouldn't think this," or flee them, "I'll just stay busy," but they often persist or intensify. The practice is to become the night watchman of your own mental dreams. When you find yourself caught in a stressful daydream, rehearsing a difficult conversation, worrying about a potential problem, regretting a past moment, pause. Feel your feet on the floor. That's your watchman's post. Feel your breath. That's your lantern. From that grounded place, simply witness the daydream. Don't get into its story. Don't argue with its characters. Just acknowledge, the worst-case scenario dream is here. The past regret dream is playing. You might even ask the dream, from your watchman's perspective, what are you really? What need are you expressing? Not to analyze intellectually, but to listen from a place of grounded curiosity. Often, just this shift, from being in the dream to witnessing it from the threshold, changes everything. The anxiety dream might reveal itself as a call for preparation. The regret dream might be an invitation to make amends or forgive yourself. The fantasy dream might point to a genuine longing. This holiday, when you find yourself lost in mental stories about how things should be, could be, or used to be, remember Leo. Your primary job isn't to control the dreams. Your job is to stand your post at the threshold of awareness, grounded in the reality of your body and breath, and witness whatever dreams come and go. In that witnessing, you're free, not of the dreams, but from being trapped within them. Chapter 30, The Practice of Loving Kindness, Metta. This is the practice of extending the sense of home you cultivate within yourself outwards, to include other beings. It is mental gardening, planting seeds of benevolence in your own heart. Sit comfortably. Feel your breath for a few moments, grounding yourself. We will silently repeat a series of traditional phrases, directing them first to ourselves, then radiating outward. The key is to feel the intention, the heartfelt wish behind the words. There is no need to force a feeling. Just offer the wish. Begin with yourself. Place a hand on your heart if it feels comforting. Silently repeat. May I be safe and protected. May I be healthy and strong. May I be at ease and happy. May I live with kindness. Repeat these phrases for a minute or so, letting them sink in. Now, bring to mind someone you love easily, a child, a partner, a dear friend. See their face. Feel their presence. Direct the phrases to them. May you be safe and protected. May you be healthy and strong. May you be at ease and happy. May you live with kindness. Next, bring to mind a neutral person, someone you see regularly but have no strong feelings about, like a checkout clerk or a neighbor. Offer them the same wishes. Then, if you feel ready, bring to mind a difficult person, someone who has caused you pain or irritation. This is challenging but transformative. Remember, you are not condoning their actions, you are acknowledging their shared humanity and wishing them freedom from the suffering that likely drives their behavior. Offer the phrases gently. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be at ease. May you live with kindness. Finally, expand the wish to all beings, in all directions. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings be healthy and strong. May all beings be at ease and happy. May all beings live with kindness. This practice softens the hard walls of the separate self. It waters your innate capacity for compassion and connection. It is a direct remembering that you are not a lonely tree, but part of the vast, interconnected forest of life. And so we arrive at Part 5, Integration, Living Awake. Chapter 31, The Holiday as Practice Ground. Now, we bring it all home. The holiday season is not an obstacle to your mindfulness practice. It is the perfect, rich, messy, beautiful training ground. Every moment is an opportunity to awaken. At the meal, before you take the first bite, pause. Look at the food on your plate. See its interbeing, the sun, soil, rain, the hands that planted, harvested, transported, and cooked it. Take one breath of silent gratitude. Then, as you eat, truly taste. Put your fork down between bites. Feel the textures, the flavors. When conversation flows, listen. When you speak, know why. In conversation, practice being the listening post. Empty your bowl of your next witty remark or defensive point. Listen to understand, not to reply. See the person speaking, not your story about them. Watch their eyes, their hands. Hear the emotion beneath the words. When overwhelmed, feel your feet. Plant them firmly on the floor. Take one deep, conscious breath. Remember, you are the sky, vast, stable, unchanging. The stress is just weather. It will pass. You can observe it from the tower of your awareness. When lonely, refresh your navigator's map. You are not a lonely dot. You are a node in a living web. Send out a silent nutrient of kindness, a genuine smile to someone across the room, a heartfelt compliment, a silent wish for their well-being. May you be happy. This action reconnects you to the network. When joyful, don't grasp at it, trying to make it stay. Feel the joy in your body. Let it flow through you like sunlight. And then, offer it to the network. Let your joy be a nutrient for others through your presence, your light touch, your open laughter. You are not trying to have a perfect, stress-free, Hallmark holiday. You are practicing the much more meaningful, much more real art of being fully, compassionately, awake for the holiday you are actually having. Chapter 32, The Candle in the Dark. Imagine a single candle lit in a vast, dark room. The candle does not curse the darkness for being so large. It does not strain to illuminate every distant corner all at once. It does not fret that its light is small. It simply burns, clearly and steadily, where it is. Its light is soft, limited, but utterly real. It makes the space immediately around it visible, warm, knowable. In its gentle glow, you can see the texture of the table, the pages of a book, the face of a loved one. It creates a radius of intimacy, of presence. Your awareness is that candle. This present moment is the circle of its light. You do not need to light up the whole dark forest of the past with regret or analysis. You do not need to illuminate the entire uncertain path of the future with worry and planning. You do not need to banish all darkness, which is impossible. You just need to tend your candle. To keep its flame grounded in the breath, the body, the direct sensations of now. To let it burn clearly, steadily, compassionately, right where you are. When you tend your candle of awareness, you create a radius of peace around you. And in that radius, life becomes intimate, vivid, and alive again. You can see the faces of those you love, really see them. You can feel the warmth of your own heart beating in your chest. You can hear the unique music of this moment. You are home. You have always been home. You just forgot to tend the light. Closing. As we end this time together, hold this knowing gently. This was not about creating 3 hours of peace to then be lost. This was about remembering that you can return home in 3 seconds. In the space of a single breath. The salt air is always here to be smelled. The stream of sensation is always flowing. The clay of your present experience is always alive under the touch of your attention. The forest network is always humming beneath your feet, connecting you to all of life. You do not have to live lost in the abstract space of thought. You can, in any moment you choose, open the hatch. You can feel the weight of the chair that holds you. You can hear the seagull cry of this very sound reaching your ears. So as you go back into your world, into the glittering lights, the familiar songs, the complicated conversations, the deep silences of the night. Carry one simple thing with you. The willingness, the gentle determination, to stop. And feel your own 2 feet on the ground. To take one breath, and know you are taking it. That is the practice. That is the path. That is the endless, joyful journey of coming home. Thank you for your presence, for your courage, for your attention. Remember, the temple is not a place you visit. It is your own attentive, compassionate heart. And in its sky, the moon of awake awareness is always, always shining. Go in peace.